Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report, and we are live. We go live every single Tuesday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific. Now, I know what everybody always says. Mitch, rules are rules. I'm already telling you, though, off the jump. I'm not drinking today. Sort of the 3 jerseys I'm going to be rocking, I'm just letting you know we're only getting Raiders content today, and there is a lot to get into. I know, I almost dropped a different kind of C word. We're going to be talking about Kliff Kingsbury to the Las Vegas Raiders. We're going to get into the latest around Colin Cowherd and what he had to say about the Las Vegas Raiders potentially bringing in Kliff Kingsbury if the Silver and Black keep Antonio Pierce. I made a short about it yesterday, so if you haven't already seen it, I'll kind of go more depth here today. If you have already seen it, I'm going to go even more into depth on that. Then we're going to talk about trading up to the number 1 overall pick, because I do think where there's smoke and there's fire, and I do think that there's some speculation around the Las Vegas Raiders potentially trading up to the number 1 overall pick. ESPN, they laid out a off-season blueprint for the Raiders. I'm going to give my 2 cents on that. And as always, to the 600 people here that are tuned in right now to the Raiders Report, if you want to get your questions on the show, hashtag Raiders, or you can super chat. Appreciate all of y'all tuning in to the show. And if you're a diehard Raider fan that wants Antonio Pierce to be hired and you want to shout out on the show, I want to see some APs down below. I already am getting a laugh, a little bit of a chuckle from Kevin. Says, just hire AP already. Somebody said Abjin is already the MVP of today's show. I am starting to wonder, though, when the hell are the Raiders going to announce whoever they decide to go with general manager? Are they going to go with Ed Dodds? Are they going to go with Champ Kelly? Hell, do they end up doing it live right now? That'd be something, wouldn't it? What up, Joshua Black? What up, Jorge Gomez Samoa? I see you down there. Sienna Cawley's been watching a lot of this show. One of my OGs here, unknown Raider guy, absolute legend down there. I see Joseph Kingshaw, man. King is always counting down, which I appreciate. Juan Hernandez has probably been here since 10K subs. Venom Sosa. Actually, Venom, can you wait a second real quick? Venom, wait, everyone just wait a minute. Wait a minute. Venom Sosa. What's up? What's up, Venom? What up, Amber Caruso, Carlos? I see J&L, The E, Gary Lane, Herschel, Chili Man. What's up, bro? I got Willy Wonka, not the Chocolate Factory. My man Justin Abjin, newest member of Mount Raidermore, I just saw in the building. Patrick B, another member of Mount Raidermore here in the building. What up, Go Playing? Jorge Jr., Ed Robbins. So to everybody out there right now it's a 2-person race. I know that when I was live yesterday, when we were breaking down the Bills-Steelers game, everybody was saying, hey, Mitch, the Raiders hired Champ Kelly. Hey, Mitch, the Raiders hired Champ Kelly. It's not the truth. Now, is he the favorite to get the job as it stands right now?
Fake news.
Yeah, according to reports, he's still the favorite, but it was also reported yesterday that it is a 2-man race. Ed Dodds, Champ Kelly. If you're sitting in that room with Mark Davis, I need you to do 2 things. I need you to tell him whether or not to type CK or ED, and I need you to tell him he's got to get a different haircut. It's driving me absolutely insane, and it's never going to change. So Ed Dodds, Champ Kelly. Let's see what the nation has to say. Lil JT says he has ED. Willy Wonka says he's got ED. I see Juan Hernandez, CK. Angel, ED. Victor, CK. Herschel, Champ Kelly, Jim,
we used to have a sponsor
Antonio Pierce.
We used to have a sponsor for those people.
We did. Unfortunately, though, maybe it's not happening anymore, or it just hasn't been on this show in quite some time. Here's me being real with you, though. Whether it's Ed Dodds, whether it's Champ Kelly, I'm going to be a very happy individual because I think both of these men here are going to be able to do a very solid job being the Raiders general manager. To me, Dodds is the better candidate, and if the Raiders don't keep Kelly, he goes somewhere else. Then, if he gets hired, you get 2 third-round comp picks. But I do believe that the Raiders are trending in the right direction because from what it sounds like, whoever the GM is going to be making a lot of the decisions that a GM should make, unlike what they have done the past 2 years with Josh McDaniels. Not 2 years, 2 hirings with McDaniels and John Gruden. So a lot of happy faces. Also, you know what brings me a lot of happy faces?
Our 2 sponsors for today.
First one is PrizePicks. And if anybody wants to put their money where their mouth is on some NFL playoff games.
Don't do that. I actually watched a video. Money's actually really dirty.
Really?
Yeah, you wouldn't think so, but, you know, especially like the lower denominations like dollar, $5 bill, pennies, nickels,
you know why?
quarters. It's because all the Browns fans use them.
I don't know. I've heard a lot of things from Houston area using a lot of dollar bills. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, that might be the case. Jack would know about that.
Yeah? I actually have seen Jack hold $2 in his hand at once.
Well,
It looked like a big check from Semi-Pro. If anybody wants to get started, though, with any of our sponsors, go to PrizePicks.com/CLNS, the #1 daily fantasy sports app out there. I'll tell you my picks here in a little bit as the show rolls on. Our other sponsor here live is Gametime. And then if you're like Chugs and I, here's some cool news. We're going to be out in Las Vegas, Super Bowl weekend. We got media credentials, so we're going to be asking some tough questions, some people. So if you know any players that are going to be out there, hey, let us know what you should ask or what we should ask them. But Jeremy's already said, Mitch, we're going to go to a Vegas Knights game. He has already been to an Adele concert. I've never been to an Adele concert. However, I really want to go to a comedy event. And what's really cool about this is we already know that we're planning our event in, what is it? It's a month from now, right? Yeah, it's a month from now. We know that we're going to be in Vegas, and we can already see what type of events are going down.
I already have that Oilers at Golden Knights circled.
Let's do it. I'm freaking in, man. I have a Raiders hockey jersey. I have a Raiders Golden Knights hockey jersey. It's a custom-made one. I've been waiting to rock it. I think that's going to be the perfect opportunity to do so. But bottom line is this. Both of our sponsors today, they can help you win a little bit of money with your daily fantasy sports, or if you know that you're going to be traveling to a city, or if you live in a popular city area and you're sick and tired of just sitting around your house all day, maybe you need a nice little fun date idea. Alex recently has been like, hey, the Raiders season's over. Can we start doing more date nights? My answer is, unfortunately, it's Mitchell Renz 365. 6'6" this year, though. All right, y'all, do you want the Raiders to bring back Josh Jacobs?
Have you taken her to Bob's?
To Bob's?
I heard good things from people in the office when you take your lady to Bob's.
No, I've not. I've been to Bob's once. That was 3 years ago. There's better steakhouses than Bob's.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Bob's Steakhouse is for people that eat McDonald's once a week. You know what I mean? So, type B for bring back, type L for let walk. Do you want the Raiders to bring back Josh Jacobs? And the reason why I'm bringing this up here is because in ESPN's offseason plan, one of the players that they talk about, shocking, is the Las Vegas Raiders star running back. And they give their 2 cents on whether or not the Silver and Black should end up bringing him back. And I know for a lot of the people that watch the show religiously, we're going to ask a lot of questions over and over and over again, and that's simply because we get about, 1,000 subscribers every week, right? So when I see new people here, I always want to see what new people have to say, and then there's a lot of times people that have watched for 2 years. I met a Raider fan actually probably 2 weeks ago. He's like, man, I've watched your show for a long time. I have just recently started commenting. So You hear that stuff all the time. Bottom line is this show was invented to give you guys a voice and to be able to interact with Chugs and I.
I prefer to watch quietly from the corner.
Herschel, oh man. Samoa, Michael Avilia types L. I see Snack's going to type L. Golf ball, says bring back Josh Jacobs. First Super Chat rolling in here on today's show. And remember, if you want to get your question on Super Chat just like Cameron did, or you can use hashtag Raider. We need to get younger and faster. Are you saying like we need more speed or like we need to get younger, faster? Like to me, the Raiders had a really solid defense last season. And if you're going to keep Antonio Pierce, you're going to keep Patrick Graham. I think the two biggest question marks then, if you end up keeping all those guys, is who's going to be your quarterback, who's going to be your offensive coordinator. Those are two topics that's what I'm really focusing on for the Silver and Black. And we're going to talk a lot about that actually today. Let's go to my man, Willy Wonka. Should we take the best wide receiver available in the second round, or should we take a defensive player in the second round? I mean, here's the thing that I think the Raiders need to do, and a lot of teams that are picking where the Silver and Black are picking. Like, if you're a playoff team, right, you can pick based on what your biggest needs are. And one of the reasons why I was so frustrated with a lot of the stuff Gruden, Mayock did, and I think that the Raiders last year did a good job where Tyree might not have been the highest player on my board and a lot of players' boards, but I did like how they went out and got Michael Mayer, and as you saw as the season's gone, he's been an incredible player. My point is this: a team like the Raiders and a team that did not make the playoffs, to me, doesn't need to draft doesn't need to go based on need. You got to go best player available. Like, you got to make a big board. You got to make your top 13 players. Now, I'll admit, I want the Raiders to look at potentially going up and getting a quarterback, and we'll talk about that. But for me, if I'm sitting in that room with the silver and black and everybody that's making important decisions, you got to take the best player available. You have enough needs on both the offensive side of the football and the defensive side. Hell, if you end up keeping Hunter Renfrow this offseason, I don't think the Raiders do, wide receiver's not a need. You got Devontae Adams, you got Jacoby Myers, you got Trey Tucker. And then you got Michael Mayer as another hell of an option there. What's up, Muerte? Sending in the good vibes, my brother. I really, really appreciate that. I know the closer and closer and closer the offseason rolls in, and you're going to get a lot more rumors. You're going to get a lot more speculation. Anytime y'all send in some good vibes, and anytime y'all take a second out of your day, tune into the Raiders Report. Believe me, it doesn't go unnoticed, and it is greatly appreciated. Let's go to my man, Steel Cage Savage. He's been watching now for what? A year and a half, Steel Cage? I can remember a few times you pulled up last year. I mean, how long does this stuff take? The interviews are finished. Mark Davis, make up your mind so we can move forward. I laugh at this for the simple case of I was talking to my dad this morning about it, and I was like, I get worried the longer and longer this goes, because the longer and longer it goes, the more and more worried I get that Mark Davis doesn't trust his gut, and he gets somebody talking in his ear, and then it just goes down a whole different spiraling downward motion. What? Oh, dude, there's no way it's Belichick. Chugs just said that. To me, though, I do believe that the Raiders know what decision that they're going to make at general manager, and like I said, they've got it down to 2 names, right? It sounds like it's going to be Antonio Pierce. It sounds like it's going to be Champ Kelly. But you have to hire your GM first, and then you can get your interview started for your head coaching position. But, maybe there's a reason why it's a little bit slow. Sometimes it can be a little bit slow because you already know who you're going to end up hiring. Steel Cage, though, shout out to you. Let's go to my man, Rashissimo. Rashissimo, it's been a minute, my brother. Hire AP and draft Jaden Daniels with Kliff Kingsbury as OC, real one for life. How many people out there want the Raiders to draft Jaden Daniels? If you're one of those people, I want you to type me down below right now, because I'm going to talk a lot about Jaden Daniels. I'm going to talk a lot about Kliff Kingsbury today, and I'm also going to talk a lot about the cost of what it would take for Las Vegas to get up to pick number 1, to get up to pick number 2, to get up to pick 3. And, a lot of the times it's easy to say, go get Jaden Daniels. The Raiders should draft Caleb Williams. The Raiders should do this. The Raiders should do that. However, you got to understand the cost of it. Like, Alex can come up to me and say, go get me a YSL purse, right? It's a brand, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. And that's a great idea.
Very expensive.
It's like trading up for the number 1 pick, right?
Yeah.
Like that is my comparison.
The best I can do for you is Forever 21.
That's Justin Fields, right? Like, it's everything has a cost to it, and unfortunately, I really want people to understand the cost of going up and trying to get one of these top people up here.
You know what? I saw a ton of people saying they wanted AP at the beginning of the show. So I want to ask you this. If you truly want AP, go down and hit that like button. There's 1,000 people watching right now, only 200 likes. I want to see what percentage of people want AP and what people, they don't really care.
Hire AP. If you want Antonio Pierce to be the head coach, I want the Raiders, like, back to what Steel Cage was saying, one of the reasons why I want the Raiders to just kind of get the move on is because I do think the sooner you end up hiring your GM, the sooner you end up hiring your head coach. The NFL is a very competitive league. Sports is a very competitive industry. If I know right now, that means I have a head start on anybody that hasn't hired somebody yet. Like, you can already start to get into that planning process. But there's a lot of information out there. We have a lot to dive into today, I'll tell you that. I see Cloud, Brandy, John, Duvall.
We're at 340. That means more than half the people in the chat do not want AP.
I mean, you see Vincent says Harbaugh. How about this? If you're not hitting that like button and you don't want Antonio Pierce, who do you want? Like, I would say if you were to ask 100 Raider fans, 80 of them, that might be a lot. 70 would say Antonio Pierce. I'd say
right now,
everybody else would say
right now it's only 30.
Harbaugh. True. Yeah, I see John Lopez wants Harbaugh. I see Golf, Corey, Oscar all saying AP. Ron Raspberry, AP or John Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh. Nobody else. I'm with you. To me, if you're the Raiders, based off of where you are at right now, you have two options. Just like you have two options for GM. So again, y'all, we got a lot of stuff coming up here live on the Raiders Report. If anybody wants to get in our 50-50 raffle, we always do 50-50 raffles. We're going to be doing that at the very end of today's show. Let's do it. $20 Venmo at Mitchell Renz 365 if you want a chance to win a little bit of money. We gave away a little over, $200-something probably yesterday. I'm curious always of how these duck races go. So if you want in, you can add me as a friend. You can send it in. We do a bunch of duck races every single week. So yesterday, Anthony Green won $60. Philip Bogert won $90. And then Justin Gilbert won $50. We already got one person in. My question is, who else is going to get in and beat Chugs? Because if Jeremy's the only one in this,
I get whatever in your Venmo account.
So $20. Deal. Chugs is in. Who wants to race against Chugs in our 50-50 raffle? Let me know who's in. I'm always, though, I don't want to do ducks. I want to do something that we've never done before. Legitimately. Just pick some random thing that we've never done before. Let's go to my brother, Sir Chai. Mitch, I'll take AOC over Jalen Hurts. Wow. Does he like pudding?
I really don't get the Bill Cosby part in that.
I'm kind of with you. However, to each their own.
What?
Bonus points for a new nickname that I've never heard, I guess.
Why, Sir Chai, why would you put Jalen Bill Cosby Hurts? I don't get it.
His arm is like a pudding pop. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, Hurts to me is clearly not healthy. I also think that, one thing that's really been understated for the Philadelphia Eagles is how much they have missed Shane Steichen.
You might be talking about
Steichen.
You might be talking about Deshaun Watson, but I don't know.
Shane, I mean, he's done a phenomenal job with the Indianapolis Colts. I also think, though, that team was very, very banged up, and the Eagles' MO for the majority of the season was, we're going to be the tougher team, and we're going to be the more physical team for 4 quarters. And as they got banged up and as they got tired, they just simply weren't able to play that style of football. L.I., give me AP and bring in a stud offensive coordinator. Could not agree with you more. If you're going to roll with Antonio Pierce, you need to bring in somebody that you got to just say, you know what? Hey, the offense is yours. Whatever you're going to do, and that's one of the reasons why we'll talk about Kliff here, and I'll give you some of my insight on why I don't mind the move at all, is because Kliff has head coaching experience. He's also coached at the NFL, college level, has coached very talented quarterbacks on top of that. But if you're going to keep Antonio Pierce, you got to bring in a top-level OC. You got to give him the keys to that car, and if he says, we got to trade up to pick number 1, you got to be okay with it, Mark. Let's go to Michael McSwain, AP. He believes in the Raider way. I will admit this.
Raiders!
I love AP. That guy bleeds silver and black, but I don't want to just hire a head coach because he screams Raiders. I don't want to just hire a head coach because he listens to NWA. I don't want to hire a coach just because he's from Compton. He wears Raiders jackets. I'm hiring Antonio Pierce because he took that team to another level. They went 5-4. You beat the Chiefs, you beat the Chargers, you beat the Broncos, and you went from having a good to great defense to an elite defense. And that's what Antonio Pierce was able to do, which is one of the reasons why I do think it might actually be a little bit of an easier rebuild if you end up keeping AP, you bring in an OC, and then you bring in that brand new quarterback. Like, that's why I want Antonio Pierce, because then you can also keep Patrick Graham. I don't want to keep AP because Jim Harbaugh is singing whatever song that was. Like, that shit doesn't matter to me. All I care about is winning football games. That's why I want AP. Sir Chai, Raiders should trade up for Jaden Daniels or Justin Fields. So, I mean, here's the thing. I don't think Justin Fields goes for a first-round pick. Now, there has been some rumors that some teams in the late to early 20s could potentially give up a first-round pick for Fields, and obviously the Raiders aren't going to do that because they're at 13. But if you told me right now, would you rather, and it's an honest question, would you rather trade your second round pick for Justin Fields, or would you rather trade more picks to go up and get Jaden Daniels, right? So I think it depends what you're going to have. And I'll tell you this, if Mark Davis stays true to his word, which you never know if that's going to happen or not, if Mark Davis stays true to his word and he says the general manager is going to be the one that makes the final football decisions, I've said it for months. When I talked to a few Raiders players, I mean, that's probably, a month and a half ago, a bunch of those players told me that they would be open to the idea to bring in Justin Fields to this team. Champ Kelly was a part of that regime that drafted Justin Fields. Like, there was a lot of connections and a lot of people inside that locker room that are down with the idea to bring in Justin Fields. I'm telling you right now, the odds of getting Fields to the Raiders does go up if Champ Kelly is the GM. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but the odds are absolutely there. Let's go to Caleb Scott Landry. What's up, man? If we like the difference
between
AP and Rich Bisaccia is the quality of head coaches available this year.
I think he's saying like the difference between AP and Bisaccia back then was the.
I actually don't agree with this. I think that there's actually better head coaches available this year than what there was back in 2022. The problem with Mark Davis has always been he just doesn't have the right people around him making important decisions. Like, there's a reason why the Raiders have been a bad organization since Mark Davis has taken over. It's because Mark Davis has made bad decisions. He's made good business decisions. You can't deny that. The Raiders are worth more than they ever have been. But the reason why the Raiders have struggled is because Mark has made the poor decisions of having people that talk to him. They're living in the past. Let's just say that. This year, though, I think that he sees, oh, man, I signed a big-time whale in John Gruden. I went out, signed another big-time whale in McDaniels. Maybe I just got to do with what my players want. What up, Cameron? Why not trade for Fields and put good pieces around him? Think Plunkett and Gannon. I think the reason why you potentially don't do that is because there is a chance, right, that if you go out and you trade for Justin Fields, what if Fields says, I want a brand new contract? Then what? Because there will be teams that give Justin Fields that new contract. Are you going to say, okay, I'm going to give up a second-round pick for Fields, and then you're going to pay him $35 million a year? Like, I mean, that's where, like, that conversation is difficult, and you're like, oh, there's no way he's getting 35. If Derek Carr's getting 37, and if Daniel Jones is getting $40 million a year, Justin Fields starts at, and I mean starts at, $35 million a year. Like, this is why the Fields thing is not a slam dunk. Like, if he says, you know what, sure, I'll play on my rookie contract one more year. Cool. But I also know how the NFL works. I also know how NFL teams work. I don't think it's as easy as just saying, we're going to bring in Justin Fields and he's going to play on his rookie contract. I don't know if that's that easy. Sir Chai, Mitch got the reference, put an arm, Kelsey to Raiders. It's not going to happen. He's retiring, guys.
I feel like you could have come up with a lot better. That's like being like, it's Jimmy Epstein Garoppolo. He flies a lot. Like, you picked something very, yeah.
Yeah. Also, the Raiders, they just signed 3 players to future contracts for this offseason. They signed guard Ben Brown, who played college football at Mississippi. He's 6'5", 313 pounds. Tyreek Jones, a safety. He's 6'2", 195 from Boise. And then Tyreek McAllister is a running back, 5'11", 180 from the University of Charleston. Here, I'll send you. Oh, wow, they might have deleted it. But here, 1 second. 1 second. There you go. All right, what's up, Nick? I think Mark wants Dodds, but all of the outside noise is making him hesitant. Harbaugh deserves an interview at the very least. Bring him home, Mark. Yeah, I was going to say, I think they did just delete it. I'll say this. I know that Ed Dodds is a very well-respected mind in the NFL, and he is one of the best talent evaluators in the NFL right now. I mean, I've heard that from multiple people out there. What's going to be, I think, very interesting here is there is a lot of outside noise. And when you have people, saying, hey, I want Antonio Pierce, hey, I want, Champ Kelly back, like I get trying to bring the band back together, but I also think that Mark Davis has a job to do. And to me, the better candidate for general manager is Ed Dodds over Champ Kelly. I will say that over and over and over again. But with that being said, I will not get upset if they bring in Champ Kelly. Not at all. I think both of them are very well-respected GMs. Let's go to James Mendoza line. The QB from Maryland is going to the NFL. Tua's brother. Yeah, I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name, but it's Tua's brother is going to the NFL. He's not very good, though. Let's go back to my man Rashissimo. You don't see Jaden Daniels falling in the draft. That's why we don't give up much capital. I do not see him falling in the draft. In fact, if anything, I see him going up. And the thing that happens with the NFL every single year is it's recency bias, right? Like what's going to end up happening is same thing that happened to Anthony Richardson last year when the college football season ended. Richardson's being mocked and talked about late first, early second because of how special of an athlete he is, okay? Well, the last time that we've seen Jaden Daniels, it was Heisman Trophy. Dude wins the Heisman Trophy. He's now going to go to the Combine, and Jaden's going to be a very special athlete at that Combine. Plus, he's got a strong arm, and the reason why I'm very interested in Daniels is because obviously he's got his connections with Antonio Pierce. Those two are very close. But on top of that, throwing a good deep ball in the NFL is very difficult to do. And when you combine his athletic ability with his ability to throw a deep ball, it gives me a lot more hope that, guess what? From 1 year, Jaden Daniels went from being a below-average passing quarterback in college, let's keep it a buck, to then that following year, it was like, oh, damn, like this guy really put it together. And for people that watch the show a lot, you'll know that I'm a sucker for people and players that get better and better and better and better. If I'm an NFL coach, if I'm an NFL scout, and if I'm somebody that believes in my talent evaluation ability, I'm going to see Jaden Daniels as this incredible athlete who's got a big-time arm. It's not a strong arm like Anthony Richardson by any means, but he throws a really good deep ball. And if he throws a good deep ball, all right, well, what are the mechanics that he uses to throw that good deep ball? How can I replicate some of those mechanics to that, then hit the seam routes, the out routes, the intermediate passes, the short checkdowns? Like, that can all come with time. And to me, I believe in Daniels enough as a talent, and other people will as well, where they saw him get significantly better from the time he went at Arizona State to the time now he is where he is at now. He's going to climb. If Jaden Daniels falls out of the top, if he's not going past 8, that I can tell you. If he fell out of the top 5, I would be shocked. There's going to be 3 quarterbacks taken in the top 5. Realistically, I think 3 QBs, I would bet anybody right now, unless somebody gets injured, 3 quarterbacks go in the top 4. I would bet a lot of money on that right now. We got 1,278 people here. If you haven't already, make sure you guys click that like button. Ruben Hernandez, Russell Wilson to the Raiders. It's not impossible. And anybody that thinks that it is impossible, yeah, you got to wake up here a little bit. I will say the teams that have been linked to Russell, the Minnesota Vikings, the New York Giants have been an interesting team. But the reason why that this is interesting, and go check out my video I made 2 weeks ago on why Raider fans should be at least okay with the idea of bringing in Russ. Like, I think Russ is a weirdo. I think he's a cornball. He's one of my least favorite players in the NFL. But if I'm going to sit up here and say commitment to excellence, just win, baby, and the most important thing is trying to bring a Lombardi trophy here to the Las Vegas Raiders, like, you got to be able to understand when Russell Wilson gets cut this offseason, he's going to get $89 million in his bank. $89 million, okay? Now, if I'm Russ, I got all the money in the world. I got 12 bathrooms. I probably haven't shit in half of them. And if I really want to screw over the team that I feel like just cut me dry and let me go, what people don't know a lot of the times is that whatever team and however much money he ends up signing for, okay, this offseason, the Denver Broncos get a credit for that. So think about it. If he signs a $40 million contract, which, sure, he makes an extra $40 million, which I hear you, but that also means the Denver Broncos get $40 million, right, in credit. If you really want to screw over the Broncos and on top of that, help your new team build around you, and then you can get your legacy back, because I'll tell you this right now, Russell Wilson cares way more about his legacy than the amount of money that's in his bank account, because his wife also's got a hefty bank account as well. So to me, why not sign at the vet minimum at $1.21 million? The Denver Broncos get a credit of $1.21, and then you can build your entire roster around Russell Wilson. I'm telling you right now, you can hate Russell all you want. He's a top 15 QB. You can find a top 15 QB at $1.21 million. You can build a good roster around it. And the reason why I would at least entertain this idea is if you did want to draft a quarterback like a Bo Nix. Maybe you want to draft a quarterback like a Michael Penix Jr. in round 2. Let him sit behind Russ for a year or two. Just saying. You got to at least think about all the pieces before you just say no. John Rodriguez, Mitch, if we can't get Fields for cheap, then go after Daniels. And I don't care what we have to do to go get him. P.S. I don't want Jim Harbaugh. He's John Gruden 2.0 all over again. Then why bother getting a GM? Because he'll want all the power. I don't disagree with you, man. I think that there is a lot more risk in bringing in Harbaugh than what a lot of people want to be able to wrap their mind around. And the reason why that I say that is because I do think good organizations are run when you let the GM be the GM and then everything else kind of falls in place. Like, now, if Antonio Pierce 5-10 years from now has a good enough track record, and then he can start calling the shots, I'm okay with it. Hell, I give him 3 years, right? Like, if Antonio Pierce gets the Raiders to the playoffs and the Raiders show significant growth, that's when your head coach can start calling the shots. What I don't think works is when teams do bring in a big head coach, he gets to take on all of these things onto his plate instead of delegating, and then everybody's just doing an average job instead of people knowing exactly what they are doing. Like, I don't like to use this analogy a lot, but I do think at times it makes sense. Like, the reason why a company like McDonald's works so successfully is because everybody knows their role. There is a lot of times there's a cashier. Sure, you have a GM. They kind of, run everything. But then, I need my OC to flip burgers if I'm trying to make good burgers. Like, I don't want my OC flipping burgers, running the cash register, and also working the drive-thru. Then that's not going to be a well-oiled machine. I need a well-oiled machine here for the Las Vegas Raiders. All right, y'all, we got 1,500 people. Also, some random NFL news that just went down. The New York Giants have hired Joel Thomas as their running backs coach. Waiting is like an episode of Young and the Restless. This is actually my Aunt Wanda, right? My Aunt Wanda, I've always viewed her as the grandmother on my mom's side. My mom's the youngest of 9, and I've never was able to meet a lot of my mom's brothers and sisters because they passed away. However, though, my Aunt Wanda has always been my grandmother on my mom's side. This is like her favorite show ever. She would watch Family Feud at 10, Price is Right, and then it was Young and the Restless basically until my mom picked me up in the summer days. So I get it, man. I get it. All right, y'all. Who's ready to get into a little bit of Raiders content today? I don't know about you. I definitely am. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. All right. I got you. I'll say we look for a picture and get a picture. How about that? I mean, we'll see what we can do. Ostrich Egg says AP is a big mistake. I disagree with that. I don't think it's a big mistake. I really don't. I think the only way that the Raiders, and this is me being real with you, what you don't want, and again, I'm not going to hire Jim Harbaugh just because, I don't want him to go to the Chargers, but I do think what people should be, thinking about is you could be in a division that has Antonio Pierce with the Raiders, which, all right, let's see how it works. Jim Harbaugh with the Chargers and Justin Herbert. That should scare you. Baller. You could have, obviously, Sean Payton with the Broncos. That should scare you. And Andy Reid with the Kansas City Chiefs. That should scare you. I mean, you're looking at 3 very, very, very good head coaches in our division. What up, Jagger? What's the max you think we should spend for a quarterback?
Are you talking about
I was just going to say, are you tired of, or are you talking about the NFL draft, or are you talking about, like, I don't know, like trading for a Kyler Murray? Are you talking about signing a free agent QB? Because to me, I'll tell you exactly what I want today on the show, which is kind of why I'm trying to beat around the bush here a little bit because I don't want to give away literally one of my segments.
A lot of bush beating going on.
He says draft. How about this, Jagger? You're gonna see exactly what I'd be willing to pay today on the Raiders Report.
All right, let's go. Let's get to 600 likes, and we're gonna start our first segment.
I like it.
Like the video if you want AP to be the head coach for Raider Nation.
Also, Willie Pfister, probably. He's in. Brian Folsom in. Brian Folsom again. You in. Scott Ecker in. Sergio Torres in. Justin Gilbert in. Manuel Ruiz. You in. And if you don't know what the hell I'm talking about, we're doing a duck race here, $20 Venmo at Mitchell Renz 365. We will do this race at the very, very end of the show. Right now we have 8 people in, which means winner gets $80. So 20 to win 80 on the show.
It's like the Arsenio Hall show.
A what?
The Arsenio Hall show? You don't know?
I just must not be cultured.
Nope.
Also,
let him know. The Arsenio Hall show.
Also, A, B, C, or D, grade the cup that Jeremy made me. Fireball Cup, grade it. A, B, C, D, or F. If you're wondering what the hell am I drinking out of, that's what I'm drinking out of. Raider Sancho says, hell yeah, Chugs. I have no idea. Johnny says, oh my God, he don't know. Is it a common thing?
He was like Jerry Springer before Springer.
Oh, wow. I've been to Jerry Springer. Look up the episode, Lesbians on Ice. My freshman year in college, the only class that I ever skipped in college, I swear to you. I was actually wasn't a good student grades-wise, but I was a good student in terms of, I was a good glue guy in the classroom. I'm not a class clown, but a good glue guy. That was how I would define it. I missed one class, though, in college, and that was for me and my college buddies to drive up to go to Jerry Springer. You get free pizza. They feed you. They give you drinks. You just got to wait in line. It's free to go into. It's a lot of fun. I will tell you, this might surprise you. Everything's fixed. The competition was the girls had to prove who wanted to get married more. So it was 2 girls trying to fight over the love of one girl, and they had to use their body parts to get a ring out of a center block of ice. I was really disappointed because, honestly, halfway through it, they would just pour hot water on it. I was really hoping to be able to sit there and watch for a few hours of them trying to get that ring out. Lesbians on Ice, Jerry Springer, that would have been 2012 or 2013. Go look it up. It's not going to change your life.
We're losing them, Mitch.
We're losing them? All right. On today's live show, we're going to talk about Kliff Kingsbury. Show the Raiders trade up to #1 Raiders ESPN prediction this offseason. As always, you can use hashtag Raiders or Super Chat to get those questions, comments on the show. Are you ready? Jeremy's giving me his thumbs up, which is actually also something that I saw on Jerry Springer. Coming up right now. Raider Nation, it's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report. And coming up on today's show, we're going to get into the latest around general managers. Who's it going to be? Because I don't know about you. I know I've got a watch on right now, but the clock is ticking. Are the Raiders going to hire somebody? Then we'll get into the latest around Patrick Graham because there's another NFL team that wants his services. Kliff Kingsbury to Las Vegas. If you're like, what the hell is that? I'll dive into it. And could the Raiders potentially trade up for Caleb Williams? Because where there's smoke, there's fire, and there's some smoke around the silver and black trading up for Caleb. The reason why, though, you should subscribe to the Raiders Report is for the latest news going on around the Las Vegas Raiders. And the silver and black just signed 3 players to a futures deal. Ben Brown, offensive guard at 6'5", 312 pounds from Mississippi. Raiders signed him. Tyreek Jones at safety, a little bit of a bigger player from Boise. He was with the Titans practice squad back in 2023. And then Tyreek McAllister, running back, 5'11", 180 pounds, played college football at Charleston, was on the Broncos practice squad, which, honestly, I'm not too freaked out by a lot of these futures type of deals. Right now, as it stands, the Raiders have signed 18 players in total, if my math is mathing correctly, to future contracts. And This doesn't mean that they're going to make the 53. It's a lot of times what teams like to do to have those extra bodies going in to the offseason. So let's get in now to the latest news here around the Raiders and what's going on with their GM search. Let's make this clear. The Raiders haven't hired a general manager yet. When I was live yesterday on the show when we were doing Bills and Steelers, I had a lot of people telling me, Mitch, the Raiders hired Champ Kelly. Mitch, the Raiders hired Champ Kelly. That's not true. It has been reported, it has been confirmed that the Las Vegas Raiders are still weighing their options, and it is between Ed Dodds and Champ Kelly, according to The Athletic. Champ Kelly has had 2 interviews, and yesterday Antonio Pierce had another interview, and there was a lot of, speculation. There was a lot of good laughs. There was a lot of good vibes, as my man Raider Muerte would say, in terms of what the Raiders could potentially do. And yeah, the fact that Kelly had a follow-up interview, it's been reported by Schefter, by me as well, that it is expected that they're going to go with Antonio Pierce. It's expected that they're going to go with Champ Kelly. But here's the thing. Until that fat lady is singing, until that dotted line is signed, I'm not going to sit up here and say that the Raiders have hired anybody at GM because that's simply just not the case yet. But how about this? We started this show based on Raider Nation just being the best damn fans in all of sports. And we started this show on the idea of me going out to Oakland and talking to a lot of different Raiders, and I always wanted people to give their 2 cents because the amount of Raider fans that I met that always said, man, I never feel like I'm heard. This show's about being heard. So tell Mark Davis what you want right now, because I'm a big believer he heard us and smartened up when he fired Josh McDaniels. So will he pick the right person for general manager? If you want him to go with Ed Dodds, type ED. If you want him to go with Champ Kelly, I want you to type CK. In terms of overall odds in the way that I think the Raiders go with their hiring process, I would say it's a 75% chance that it's Champ Kelly and 25% chance that it's Ed Dodds. When the Las Vegas Raiders do finally make that announcement, the Silver and Black are hiring Champ Kelly to be their GM. The Las Vegas Raiders are hiring Ed Dodds to be their GM. Guess what? I'm going to be live right here. I don't care what time. I don't care what day it is. I don't care if I'm off. I don't care what's happening. I will be here live, breaking it all down, and hopefully we're going to be partying, celebrating, because I definitely want to, because I know the last time we did a head coach and GM hiring was not too many good vibes going on here at the Raiders Report. Coming up here, the latest on Patrick Graham. What is happening with the Raiders defensive coordinator? As I mentioned at the top of today's show, there's another team that is looking at bringing in Graham to be their next head coach. So who is that team? It is the Seattle Seahawks. They want to interview PG for their head coaching job opening. And let's get one thing straight. I think as good of a job as what Patrick Graham has done with this Las Vegas Raiders defense, anybody that just says Rooney Rule, you can go F yourself. Patrick Graham has done a phenomenal job. Patrick Graham deserves all the credit in the world, and I don't want to sit up here and say that that's a Rooney Rule interview, because as far as I'm concerned, I do think Patrick Graham is a top 32 coach in the NFL, and I do think that there would be a handful of teams that would be better off getting Graham than the current head coach that they have. So let's just say that. The next thing is, well, Mitch, why can't they just block the move? They can't block they can only block lateral moves, So in the past, when a team has said, hey, we want to interview Patrick Graham for our DC, the Raiders blocked it, which they can. You can't, though, block the opportunity, nor should you. Like, let's be real here. If somebody like PG has the opportunity to have a better life and have a better opportunity for his family, for himself, you should always allow him to do that, and that's what good organizations would do. But you can't block it. Graham is a hot commodity this season for a reason. He was unbelievable. I believe, if I had a vote, I think the person who deserves to win Coordinator of the Year is Patrick Graham for what he was able to do, turning this Raiders defense from a disastrous team to one of the best defenses, one of the most respected defenses in the National Football League. Coming up here on the show, are the Raiders going to trade up for Caleb Williams? Are the Raiders going to hire Kliff Kingsbury? We're going to talk about all that, but hey, man, I got to show some love to today's sponsor, PrizePicks. I've been hearing that all day today here at the Chat Sports Studios. PrizePicks.com/CLNS, and make sure that you use code CLNS for a first-time deposit match up to $100. It is daily fantasy sports made easy. It is the #1 fantasy sports app, and what's really crazy was the other day my mom goes, hey, Mitch, I saw one of your sponsors on TV. Guess what, Mom? we actually do some pretty good numbers here at the Raiders Report, and we get some love from pretty big-time sponsors. So if anybody wants to go get started, if my mom can play PrizePicks, bottom line is this. You can play PrizePicks too. And the reason why I say that, I have a text message from my mom and a photo from a few years ago when I met Charles Haley, and I go, hey, Mom, I met Tom Brady today. Her response, tell him I said hi. Bottom line, my mom doesn't know who Tom Brady is, and she thinks that he looks like Charles Haley. He doesn't. Use code CLNS in my picks that I'm rocking with this weekend. I'm going to make Chugs a happy individual. I'm going to go Brock Purdy less on the passing yards. I do think that the San Francisco 49ers end up getting a dub, so not going to throw the ball as much. C.J. Stroud. Yeah, I had to go with the more from my man Chugs because at the end of the day, to me, fantasy is about having a good time. And then George Kittle at 52.5 receiving yards. I am going to take the more on that as well. If there was one place that the Cowboys did kind of torch Green Bay, it was at the tight end position with Jake Ferguson. I do believe that George Kittle might be carrying a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, getting snubbed there from the All-Pro. So again, if anybody wants to get started any playoff game, all you got to do is choose more or less, pick 2+ players, and it is easy, easy, easy. Those 3 picks, I put down $10, and I have an opportunity to win $30. I don't know about you. That sounds pretty darn good to me. That link's going to be available, y'all, down in the comments and down in the description of today's show. All right, y'all, are the Raiders going to be hiring Kliff Kingsbury? And I know when you hear the name Kliff Kingsbury, there was a lot of people that asked me about this report, and if you didn't see it, it's all good. I did put out a video actually yesterday on our YouTube channel, and if you haven't checked out shorts, I've been putting out a lot more shorts recently, and it's just another way to hit more people, reach more of the audience. At the end of the day, I am here to serve Raider Nation. Also, I put it on IG at Mitchell Renz 365. So what's this about Kliff Kingsbury? Well, the reason why I'm talking about it is because Colin Cowherd was on his show, and he said Raiders' Antonio Pierce will look at USC's Kliff Kingsbury for OC if AP is hired. And then this is a quote from Cowherd. I have a source that told me Kliff Kingsbury is his likely OC if he gets the job. If you don't know what Kingsbury is doing right now, he is the senior offense analyst and quarterbacks coach at USC. And I know what everybody thinks of when they think of Kliff. They think of the job that he did, or maybe the lack thereof job that he did with the Arizona Cardinals. But one of the reasons why that this is very intriguing to me, well, how about this? I'll tell you why it's very intriguing to me. But I got to ask you another question, because the amount of people that hit me up over the past 24 hours, I was like, I got to talk about it on the show. And I want to see from the 1,500 people that are watching the show live right now, would Kliff Kingsbury be a good hire for the Raiders at OC? Type yes, or I want you to type no. And this is a very important question. Like, I know what I asked you earlier about the GM, but if I'm being real, this is the question here that I am the most intrigued about. Yes or no, my answer after this YouTube ad break. Yes, I would love the hire if the Silver and Black brought in Kliff Kingsbury. And for people who watch the show a lot, I always say this. There are certain coaches that are built to be coordinators, and then there are certain coaches that are built to be head coaches. Not everybody has the head coach gene. You know why? Because you got to be a leader. I don't really think Kliff Kingsbury is a leader, but he is a very smart, offensive-minded coach, which is why I am absolutely on board for bringing in Kliff. On top of that, if you keep Antonio Pierce, right, why not also bring in somebody that has head coaching experience and, sure, maybe didn't do a good job with the NFL, but has NFL experience and has high-level football experience at the college level. On top of that, I think Lincoln Riley is one of the most well-respected head coaches in college football. Would you agree with that? Lincoln Riley is probably one of the most highly respected coaches in all of football. Guess what he did? He saw that he had a Ferrari in Caleb Williams and said, I'm going to add Kliff Kingsbury. You know why? Because Kliff has done a hell of a job with offenses. He's going to go with a spread offense. If you don't want an old school offense, you bring in a guy like Kliff Kingsbury. And you add that, you pair that with Antonio Pierce, that to me is the right move. Why? Then AP just has to worry about being a head coach. He just has to worry about the defensive side of the football. And you give the keys to Kliff Kingsbury and you let him run a spread offense. But guess what? If you're going to run a spread offense, you better have the right quarterback in order to do it, because if you're going to give the keys to Kliff Kingsbury and you're going to say, hey, man, I want you to run a spread offense, and you give him a Honda Civic and Aiden O'Connell, you're not going to win many races. So coming up here, this is why I think the Raiders could trade up for Caleb Williams. You have heard me say this expression millions of times. Where there's smoke, there's fire. And I am telling you right now, what happened yesterday made me believe, for the first time since I have done this show, that there was a legitimate chance that the Raiders could trade up to number 1 and take Caleb Williams. Do you know why? Because the NFL is a fickle mistress. In the NFL, college football, the reason why I love rumors, it's a puzzle. And the more pieces you start putting together, the more dots you can connect. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I do think smoke was the rumor of Colin Cowherd saying, I heard if Antonio Pierce is kept, the same day AP is going in for his interview, the same day Champ Kelly's going in for his second interview, that he's going to roll with Kliff Kingsbury. Guess what happens a few hours later then? Bang, Caleb Williams declares for the NFL draft the same exact day all of this ends up going down. And the reason why that's noteworthy is because Williams has made it very clear he only wants to play for a handful of teams. And guess what? One of those teams is the Las Vegas Raiders. And guess what? Who is the one player that has haunted the Raiders and basically the entire NFL since he's come into college? Guess who is the one player that has been comped to Caleb Williams the entire time that he's been a college quarterback? His name's Patrick Mahomes. Guess who was Patrick Mahomes' coach at Texas Tech? Kliff Kingsbury. All I'm saying is this. The NFL a lot of the times is a copycat league. And if I'm watching Patrick Mahomes of the Kansas City Chiefs and I'm watching them get to the AFC Championship game, the Super Bowl all the time, kicking my ass up and down the field, yeah, minus Christmas Day, which that was a great day. But let's be real. Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs have owned the AFC West. So guess what? I'm going to try to go out and find a guy that was able to coach Patrick Mahomes, somebody that's been comped to Patrick Mahomes, and somebody that has worked with Caleb Williams, a quarterback that has the upside of Patrick Mahomes. That is why I think Kliff Kingsbury to the Raiders and trading up to number 1 is a lot more realistic now than what it was just 24 hours ago. So what about this? And, I think for the trade to number 1 cost, this is from a NFL draft expert. And I said that, to him, well, wouldn't it cost 3 first-rounders? And he told me that according to his sources, they would rather have more picks in the first 2 years than that first-round pick in 2026. So my question to you is this. If this is what it cost, and I think it might cost a little bit more. Actually, Jeremy, can you add a player in there for me real quick here? So if you were able to trade your 13th overall pick, the 44th, 77th, so your first, second, third this year, and your first, second, third next year, plus, let's say, a starting caliber player. Would you be willing to do this? You're keeping Max Crosby. You're keeping Davante Adams, because I'll tell you this right now. If you're going to run a Kliff Kingsbury offense, you ain't trading Davante Adams. Doesn't make sense to. You better have as much talent there on the outside at tight end. You better be ready to spread it, giggity, and let it rip. But the reason why I do think that this is an intriguing trade, and this is based off of, if you guys remember, the biggest leap to ever go to number 1 was back in 2016 when the Rams traded up with the Tennessee Titans to go from 15 all the way up to 1. This is what they had to give up. The 15th, so the Titans received the 15th overall pick. They got both of the Rams' second-round picks, the Rams' third-round pick, and then they also got that following year's first and third. So the way the NFL teams a lot of times evaluate draft picks are, if it's a first-round pick this year, right? So when I say it, trade, first-round pick in 2024, a first-round pick in 2025, you could look at that as how NFL teams evaluate that as like a second-round pick this year. So whatever round it is, the further and further you go back, the further and further it just doesn't mean as much. So if you want to trade up and you want to get your guy first, second, third, in the next 2 years, plus you throw in a starting player because I do think it's going to cost just a little bit more because it's Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May. But at the end of the day, you look at that trade. My question to you is, are you going to do it? Right? I've had so many people ask me, Mitch, would you be willing to do it? It's a lot. I get it. It's a lot. But here's the thing. If you told the Chiefs right now, I'll give you 10 first-round picks for Patrick Mahomes, they give you the middle finger and they tell you to go shove it. Honestly, I don't think if you gave the Chiefs 20 first-round picks, they would trade away Patrick Mahomes. I know they would. Like, there's no way in hell they would, right? So should the Raiders trade up for the number 1 pick? Type T for trade, type P for pass. Let me know all of y'all's answers down below. To me, the Raiders got to find a franchise QB. They can't deal with mediocre quarterback play anymore. And if they go this route where they hire Antonio Pierce, okay? Max Crosby gets what he wants. Devontae Adams gets what he wants. You get your guy in AP. Cool. You better trust the process then. Then if he brings in Kliff Kingsbury, and if Kliff Kingsbury is your OC and you hand him the keys to that car, and if Kliff says, I want Caleb Williams, well, guess what? The only way that you're getting him is if you trade up to 1. It's the only way. So to me, if we're going to stick to this process of players are going to be allowed to say, I want to hire AP or else I'm going to get traded away, cool. Well, then you also got to invest if you decide to bring in that OC, because you're not going to put it half in. You're going to go all the way in, right? Like, we're going to go fully into what we are doing here with Antonio Pierce. So that's sticking to the plan. To me, if that means trading up to number 1 and giving up all those picks for Caleb Williams, guess what? I am on board because I trust the process that Antonio Pierce, Champ Kelly, whoever the GM is going to be for the Las Vegas Raiders. Should the Raiders trade up to the number 1 pick? Type T for trade, type P for pass. Chugs, can you give a few shout-outs here? I'm going to change my jersey. And remember, no boots today. No boots today.
Sure.
Oh,
wow. Again. Oh, no.
We got a lockdown Studio A.
Yeah.
Lock it down. Raiders report only.
Nobody else allowed. Here we go. I'm seeing a lot of T's. There's some T's in the chat. There's some T's in the chat. There's some T's in the chat. Oh, DK, that's swaggy. I didn't even notice you were wearing that today. Where'd you get that? Oh, he still hasn't made me my shirt. Little upset. A lot of T's. I see Raider Dave, King Gabe. King Gabe's saying P. Matt Solomon says pass. Greg says pass. Sienna says trade. Rob, Ricky, Brian says pass. Joe says trade. Get 3-year-old Chili Man, King Sanchez, Duval Syndicate. Let's see. Keep them coming. I see Pat Valdez, Chad, and Swinging My Willie all say pass.
Wow, that's a lot. I also just got a text from a good source that said, I've been told the Raiders could hire a GM very soon. So, I mean, thanks to my source. However,
sauces.
I could have said the exact same thing. I could have said the exact same thing. I need, it's going to happen. That's what I need. It's going to happen because I need it to happen now. Someday. What up, JJ? Appreciate the love. Appreciate the support here on the Raiders Report. Remember, if you want to get those questions, those comments in #Raiders or Super Chat to skip the line. Let's go to Jagger again. If we get a comp third, should we trade up to get another second-round pick? By giving up 2/3 for a better DT, if not giving up for a quarterback. I think, again, my answer is going to stay very same on this topic for the NFL draft. If there is a player, right, and good NFL teams, they need to make a big board. Like, if the Raiders were smart, they would put a board together and say, here are my favorite prospects, right? And if one of your favorite prospects, like a Michael Mayer, ends up sliding down the board, you go, oh, wait a minute here. I'm going to trade up and get that guy. I'm not just going to trade up to get a player. Like, it also depends what the Raiders do. Do you bring back Adam Butler? Do you make Tyree Wilson a full-time DT? Do you sign, which if it was me, and the reason why I would say no to your option here is because I still want to see what the Raiders can do in Byron Young, right? I mean, you drafted him in the 3rd round. Didn't love the pick, though. However, if I'm the Raiders, I spend big this offseason and free agency on DT. Like, Christian Wilkins, I do think if the Raiders retain Rob Leonard, the defensive line coach, who's got a very good connection with Wilkins, could absolutely be somebody to monitor. And I think you look at really good NFL teams, right? If you put a dominant defensive tackle on the interior and then you let Malcolm Kuntz eat, you let Max Crosby get one-on-ones, and then you let Tyree Wilson really grow into himself. Like, I get the idea of taking a DT, but it's so important this year for Tyree Wilson to take the step that Malcolm Kuntz took this offseason, or this regular season, where I'm going to spend a lot of money on DT to take pressure off of Tyree Wilson, to take pressure off Malcolm Kuntz, and then if I got one-on-one with Max Crosby, I'm going to feel pretty damn good about myself.
And you have to remember with DT, I think next year we'll see a full year of Tyree Wilson at that 3-technique defensive tackle.
And he got better and better as the year went on.
Yeah, he was good. He was good at the end of the year. I thought he really came out of his shell.
He got healthy.
4 or 5 games of the year.
I mean, another player that if I'm the Raiders, I would do everything in my power to bring back, Adam Butler. Like, I think Adam Butler was one of the most underappreciated defensive tackles in the NFL, and it kind of reminds me of the DT that they let go. He went to the Browns. Oh, my gosh, his name, I can't think of it. They had him on their 2022 roster. I can't think of his name right now.
He was on the Browns this year?
He signed to the Browns this year. His name's escaping me, but Andrew Billings. Andrew Billings was a really good Raiders DT back in 2022. They let him go, and I think for what it would have cost to bring him back, the Raiders could have really used him. So to me, I think bringing back somebody that is like Adam Butler, it takes pressure off of a guy like a Byron Young. It takes pressure off a guy like Tyree Wilson, and then you let him go, and you let him turn into a player that hopefully he can turn into. Let's go to Michael McSwain, best and most entertaining show on YouTube with YouTube. Hey, Chugs, give me a hooray! I can't do it.
Let's go!
The throat goat, pipes of steel. Hey, man, I greatly appreciate that. I hope you all can see we do put in a lot of work. We do put in a lot of time, but believe me when I tell you, we have a lot of fun. We enjoy what we do. I miss doing watch parties. I love being able to hang out with y'all. Like, my boss today asked me this, which I actually have not told Jeremy. He goes, do you and Jeremy want to go to the Super Bowl? Super Bowl in Allegiant Stadium. And here's the thing. I said no. I know. My job here is to make sure that you guys are entertained as much as humanly possible. Like, I'm going to do a watch party. This is where Jeremy's like, I'll go.
I didn't know that was on the table.
But I said, I want to do a watch party for the Super Bowl for Raider Nation, because to me, that's what this thing's about. Like, I'll never go to a Raiders game. Why? Because my job here is to be able to go live with all y'all. So believe me when I tell you messages like this, when days get tough around here,
now,
really appreciate it.
Depending on the matchup, I might have to take James up on that.
The Texans? The problem is I looked at tickets, and this might surprise you. Super Bowl in Vegas, hefty.
Oh, I mean,
it's hefty.
Cheapest ticket, I'm guessing. I do have a credit on Gametime.
You do have a $100 credit. Yep. That gets you a hot dog.
Flash sale on Gametime.
Sure.
Maybe $5,000.
Yeah. Honestly, that's probably what it's around.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll be live. I'll be here. You might see Jeremy. He might get a nosebleed with the seats that he's got to get. Sal, what up, Sal? AP, Kelly trade up for Jaden Daniels. I mean, to me, if you have Champ Kelly at GM, the two quarterbacks that I would be willing to bet the most money on in terms of who's the Raiders' next quarterback, I would say it's either Justin Fields or it's Jaden Daniels based on the connections. If you bring in Kliff Kingsbury, though, then I think it's Caleb Williams. Got to be thrown there into that conversation. Absolutely got to be thrown there into that conversation.
I was trying to catch him. He was just looking out the window with his cup of tea.
Yeah, he scares me sometimes, man.
Hello,
let's go to Sean Kelly
friend.
at GM, Dodds at assistant GM, personnel executive, AP at head coach, Kingsbury at OC, Graham at DC. Give up to whatever picks it takes to draft Daniels. The problem with this idea is, why would Dodds leave being an assistant GM for the Colts to be the assistant GM of the Raiders? Are you going to pay him more? I mean, maybe it's an opportunity. Maybe Dodds can have more say here with the Raiders, though he is the right-hand man of Jim Irsay already in Indianapolis. So I hear you, but I don't know if it's both. Like, to me, the more likely candidate to take that lesser role is not actually Ed Dodds, it's Trey Brown. And if you go back to a video I made a month ago, one of my things that I said could potentially happen was Champ Kelly at GM, and then it was Trey Brown at assistant GM / personnel executive, and then AP I don't think I said an OC, but I did say Patrick Graham back there. Let's go to Stephen Ray. Mitch, if we get Justin Fields, do you think he could thrive in the air raid offense? I do not. I do not think that. I think for the way that you make a successful team around Justin Fields, and this is why, again, I think you got to build a run-first offense. Like, if you bring in Justin Fields, you probably do bring back Josh Jacobs. And you try to run an offense very similar to the offense that the Baltimore Ravens run, a very similar offense to what the Atlanta Falcons run, where it's going to be a run-first style. It's going to be, if you want to throw the ball down the field, awesome, you can do it. But it's going to be a run-first offense with a lot of play action, a lot of misdirection, a lot of read options. You're going to let Justin Fields be the athlete that he is. Because I'll tell you this, if you're just going to sit back there and let him shotgun it and throw the ball, that's not what Fields is good at. You got to let him be an athlete. And I think Baltimore has done a good job with that with Lamar Jackson. Let's go to Patrick B. If Kliff does become OC, do you think he would try to trade for Kyler Murray? I actually think it'd be one of the last quarterbacks he tries to trade for. Kyler Murray, to me, is a really bad teammate. That's been well documented.
Kind of the guy who got him fired.
And kind of the guy that got him fired, right? So
it didn't work at all in Arizona. How about we run that back?
You cannot afford to bring in Murray. I'm not bringing in Kyler Murray at $50 million.
Yeah, his contract makes no sense.
I mean, would you rather trade, let's say you got to trade 2 first-round picks and you get Kyler Murray at $50 million, or you can give up 2 first-round picks to potentially go get Jaden Daniels. Like, I know what I'm going with. I'm not going with Kyler Murray, who, again, has been very well documented as being a really bad teammate. I mean, he's had past players call him out. Anytime you got a team that has to draw up a contract when they're about to give you, which this is just how dumb the Cardinals are, $50 million a year, and you have to write something in there that you can't play video games for a certain amount of time in the week. Now, they ended up taking that out of it, but that's a problem, right? If I saw $50 million right now and somebody came up to me and said, hey, you can't play Call of Duty anymore, and I was a diehard Call of Duty fan, I'm not going to play Call of Duty anymore, right? Mitch, I'll give you $50 million a year. However, you can't do duck races anymore. I'm not going to do duck races anymore. Let's go to Mo.
$50 million, but you can't eat bread or cheese for the rest of your life.
I'm going to take $50 million.
No bread, no cheese.
Yeah, I could do it. For $50 million, are you kidding me? I could do a lot of...
Only meat and veg.
Yeah. Can I eat pasta?
No. Nothing considered like a bready carb like that. You can have rice, but no pasta, no bread, no sandwiches.
Can I have British food? We'll allow it.
No fried food.
No fried food? I'm taking $50 million.
No cheese, bread, pasta, or fried food.
I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. Send it. Let's go. If you're out there and you can send a $50 million super chat, that's the deal. Mo, how far do you think Raiders can go with Justin Fields? Playoff, AFC, championship? To me, if the Raiders would have had Justin Fields this year, they're in the playoffs because they had a really good defense. I do think that. Again, though, is it a Super Bowl caliber team with Fields? It's going to determine more of what you do around him. The problem, though, still is going to be like, is Fields better than Mahomes? No, he's not. Is Fields better than Justin Herbert? No, he's not. So you are kind of hitting a double where I want the Raiders to try to swing for the fences and try to hit a home run. Like, I don't think Fields is good enough of a thrower. And that's what scares the hell out of me. Can he develop into a good thrower? Like, I said this the other day, maybe it was yesterday, when people laughed at me when I said if I was the Raiders back in 2022, I said that I would have traded for Jordan Love. But you saw how much of a player development Jordan Love had from when he first started playing. People were like, this guy's terrible. Like, when they first traded up for him, he was then the third-string quarterback. People were like, this guy's never going to make it. And you've seen Jordan Love turn into a pretty damn good-looking quarterback as it stands right now. Maybe if you get the right guy that can work with Fields, sure. But the thing that I never liked with Fields was as soon as the play broke down, he broke down.
Let me ask you this. Would you rather trade for Justin Fields and then eventually have to pay for him, or give a mid-level contract to Baker Mayfield?
Justin Fields. I think Baker's a really fun guy, and he's a great locker room dude. I mean, that's been proven. I mean, it's hard not to root for Baker.
In the chat, let me know, who would you rather have? JF for Justin Fields, BM for Baker Mayfield. Who would you choose between those two guys?
I'm going to choose Justin Fields. Again, I think what the Buccaneers did this season is sensational. You got to give them a lot of credit.
He looked good.
I mean, he's played well. I'm not a Tua fan, Robert Gonzalez. I'll tell you that right now. I might be one of the biggest. Tua. No, I'm out on Tua. Not a big Tua guy, but is what it is.
Legend. Thank you for the super chat, John. If we can't get Fields, then I want Daniels because Williams is a headache and diva, even though he's very talented.
Caleb Williams does have some worries in the. My biggest worry with Caleb Williams is when plays break down. Again, in the NFL, things aren't going to go the way that it should. And Caleb hangs on to the football way too long. He always looks for the home run, which does worry me a little bit. But again, if you put him in the right system, he just has talent that it's super, super rare in that regard. My favorite quarterback, though, in this year's draft is Drake May, which I know is not a popular topic, but to me, he's got everything that Caleb has from talent-wise, arm. Caleb's more athletic with his legs, though Drake can still run, and Drake May's got it up here, which is, I'll pick this over talent any day of the week. Let's go to Derek Garcia. Fields is a career 60% completion quarterback. F that. How about this? And all I want you to do, Derek, is go look at Josh Allen's numbers in college, right? To me, if you can show that you can improve, and whether you like to hear it or not, Justin Fields, to me, has improved as a passer. But he's also had horrible teams around him.
I was going to say, besides this year with DJ Moore, name me 2 wide receivers that you would consider good that Justin Fields has had. I'll wait.
I mean, guys,
if you can name 2 wide receivers that Justin Fields has had are good.
His number one receiver last year, Darnell Mooney, with arguably the worst offensive line in the NFL, right? Like, I know what the numbers are to Fields, but the reason why I hate the argument of, well, look at the numbers. It's the exact same argument I would tell people are saying, Aiden O'Connell's better than Bryce Young. No, he's not. I get that their numbers are very similar. Bryce Young has nobody around him. Justin Fields finally had some sort of talent around him. If you put Fields with Devontae Adams, the Raiders' offensive line last year, Josh Jacobs, Michael Mayer, Jacoby Myers, I'm telling you right now, he's going to have a lot more success.
Milo, Allen Robinson is the 3rd option on the Steelers right now.
He stinks.
Maybe the 4th.
He's washed. Then you have Matt Eberflus, who was proven to be a horrible offensive-minded coach. Like, I know that people don't like Fields, and I know that the completion percentage, I hear you. I get
Mooney is cheeks.
I get it. What up? Adonai, is there a second-round quarterback better than Fields? I personally do not think so. Like, I would rather have Fields over Bo Nix, and I would rather have Fields over J.J. McCarthy. Now, there's a lot of people that think McCarthy goes in round 1. I don't think Bo Nix goes in round 1. Penix is going to be an interesting one. I would actually rather have Justin Fields over Michael Penix Jr. The injuries with Penix do scare me, man. They do, and I'm going to die on that hill, I guess. So, because of that, I would rather have Fields. Who do you think's younger, Penix or Fields?
Fields.
Is he?
Probably. Penix is, 24, 25?
Justin Fields, 24. Michael Penix Jr., 23. So 1 year of difference. But I know it's pretty damn close. Like 24 years old.
CJ Stroud's 22.
Stroud's unbelievable. Fields, though, to me, he has that athletic ability that you can't coach. Can you make him a better thrower? Only time's going to tell.
Oh, Rocket Jock. Mitch would disagree.
What?
You said Drake May's cheeks.
Yeah, I think anybody that says Drake May's cheeks is the same people that probably said C.J. Stroud, you shouldn't draft him because he's from Ohio State. Anybody that thinks Drake May and Mitchell Trubisky are even close of the same quarterback prospect, again, you're just looking at the helmet. You're not actually watching the player. Drake May did not have any NFL talent on his team this year. Last year, he actually had a receiver maybe 2 that ended up getting drafted. Like, I look at Drake May as being, if you were to tell me quarterback, like where I had quarterbacks ranked over the last 2 years, I would say I would have had Drake May ranked higher than Bryce Young. I would have had him ranked higher than C.J. Stroud. I mean, but again, I'm a big Drake May guy. I think he's going to be really special.
Roberto, Fields or Russ if we can't draft in the top 5? I think you've said Fields multiple times.
Yeah, I think Fields. It's more likely that it's going to be Fields because of the connections with Champ Kelly, the connections with you listening to that Raiders locker room. It would end up being Fields over Russ. Brandon, it's time to break for the rhythm and the rhyme for locals. Locals. For the best content, personal interaction, more live shows, guess the song, and sing it, Chugs. It's time to break for the rhythm and the rhyme. I mean, that's definitely a song. I'm thinking it's literally called Rhythm and the Rhyme.
For a second, I think he's talking about Cool Runnings.
Maybe.
It's on my brain. I watched it the other day. Have you seen it yet? Or the other show I'm trying to get you to watch?
I refuse to answer any of that.
Feel the rhythm. Feel the rhyme.
Oh.
Come on, Jamaica. It's bobsled time.
Also, we got 11 people now in our duck race. Gabriel, you in. Andres, you in. Sean Navarro, you in. So as it stands right now, $20 Venmo for your chance to win $110 here on the Raiders Report. Jamal Scott, I would prefer Drake May. If not, get Caleb Williams. There's no other options. Drake May is going to be dangerous when he gets to the NFL. I'm with you. I think anybody that doesn't think that Drake May is going to be special, I just don't know what you're watching, and that's totally fine. And we're always going to have different opinions. I get it, but to me, I mean, he is
Sanka. You did?
Don't get me wrong, though. Every NFL,
man.
Every college quarterback needs to be a part of a good team, and it's always going to depend on fit, system, this and that. We'll see where he ends up going, but I do think Drake May to me, May might not have the upside that Caleb Williams does. He might not even have the upside that Jaden Daniels does. But if you were to tell me, Mitch, who do you think is the safest option out of Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, and Drake May? It's Drake May to me, and honestly, it's not close. I think he is way, way safer.
All right, we're going to get into this next segment over with the buddies over at ESPN.
ESPN. Correct. Okay.
Good.
Brandon Jasper, LOL, not even close. Look up Marky Mark Chugs. Marky Mark. Got it.
Marky Mark.
Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. You don't know Marky Mark? You don't know Marky Mark. Also, David. Oh, boy.
When I type in Marky Mark, this is what comes up.
Wow. There's a lot of nipples on screen. David De La O in. And
wait, is that Mark Wahlberg?
Yes. What do you mean, is that Mark Wahlberg?
Was he a singer?
I can't tell if you're serious right now. James Guevara, you in twice. I don't know if you're serious.
I had no clue.
You had no idea Mark Wahlberg was a singer. Marky Mark.
No.
Wow, this is...
I had never heard that.
This is...
I'm
really surprised.
I bet if you ask anybody in the office.
I think everybody would know.
Mark Wahlberg. Did you know that he was a singer? Really? Never heard that in my life.
Yeah. I can't believe that. I'm mind blown right now that you didn't know that.
Okay, you didn't know who Arsenio Hall was.
I still don't. What?
Who?
Who is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, of course Jonesy knows. If they've been on TV, Jones knows. Never seen it. Never seen it. Sorry, I don't. like I said, I don't watch a lot of TV.
And Greg, you're good. We're going to do this at the end of the show.
Correct.
Joel said, how old are you? Guess. How old do you think I am?
All right, how about this? You give a few shout-outs. No, it's in there. It's in Pod B. Yeah. So what? I'll send it to him.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go get some water.
How old do y'all think I am?
You give some shout-outs. Let me go grab some water.
Eric says 33. Pat says 27. Johnny says you better be 21 to 25. 22. 27, 26, 28, 33, 27, 26, 28, 45. If I look like this when I'm 45, like, I'm doing something right. I'm on my Chase Senior-ish if I look like this whenever I'm 45. I see 32, 31, 25, 38, or 28, 32, 26. Devin says we're the same age, 29. I am 27 years of age. 27. A couple people got it right. Anthony got it right. David got it right. Let's see. Elias. Sienna got it right. 27 years young.
Wow. Also, the Great Tuna in. And then, is this Moses? Moses, you in. That puts us at 16.
Yep.
$20 Venmo for a chance to win $160.
1996. Graduating high school class of 2015. We're fly, we're clean, we're the class of 2015.
Yep, it's very true. I was class of 2015 as well. I was, Roy says, I bet Mitch under 32. I am under 32. Just a little older than 30. All right.
And Alex is 19.
Correct. Yeah, Alex and I met. She was, I think, 14 years old at a bar. All right, coming up here is going to be my reaction.
He's kidding.
Yeah, correct.
It is a joke.
She was 15. I mean, all right, coming up here. Actually, I see a few more people that are getting in now. Rob, Fravor, and Moshav in. Moshav in. So now we're up to $20 Venmo for a chance to win 180 doll hairs. It's pretty good. All right, y'all. Coming up, let's get into a segment here from ESPN. They try to outline the Raiders' offseason and some predictions. Essentially, I'm going to tell you what their 5 predictions were, and then I'm going to give you my 2 cents on what I thought about it all. You ready? Jeremy's giving me the thumbs up. All right, y'all. Let's get into the segment right now. Mitchell Renz here from the Raiders Report, and coming up on today's show, my reaction to ESPN's Las Vegas Raiders off-season predictions. So what essentially they did was they outlined an article, and they tried to break down the top 5 biggest predictions of the offseason, whether that was free agency, draft, however they were going to spend their money, quarterbacks that they were going to look at. Essentially what I'm going to do on today's show is give my reaction, give my 2 cents to the predictions that ESPN outlined here for the Silver and Black. Before we get into it, a little bit more of background information for some of the people that maybe don't know how much money the Raiders have in terms of salary cap space. As it stands right now, the estimated value is about $50.7 million, which is, I think, the 9th most in the NFL. Their first-round draft slot is the 13th overall pick. They have 9 picks in total as it stands right now, and some of the Raiders' biggest needs, as some of y'all might see this, and depending on when the Raiders hire a GM, I'm just saying, as it stands right now that I am making this video, GM, head coach, OC, quarterback, I think we can all admit are pretty big needs here to make sure that you never miss anything going on around the Raiders. The offseason is some of the most fun that we have, and the reason why that I say that is because this is when I get to meet a lot of the diehard fans, right? Raider Nation, when I say real one for life, it means real one, you're always tuned in, and to me, being a Raiders fan is a 365-day job, right? 366 this year. anybody's going to watch in September, October, November, December, and anybody watches the team if they're in the playoff hunt. But to me, the people that I want to have a beer with, the people that I'm like, all right, these are the people that I really care about, they're the ones that watch in the off season. So if you're one of those people, subscribe. We're going to have videos coming out every day this year. All right, let's go to the first thing here. Biggest off-season priority according to ESPN. So what do you guys think ESPN's going to roll with here for their biggest off-season priority? According to ESPN, it is figure out the full-time general manager and coach, then figure out the next quarterback. The Raiders went 5-4 under interim GM Champ Kelly and interim coach Antonio Pierce. And while they, along with rookie quarterback Aiden O'Connell, had scintillating victories over the Giants, Chargers, and Chiefs, they had losses to the Vikings and Colts that were just as disappointing. O'Connell has not shown to be the quarterback of the future, and Las Vegas didn't fix the issue with Jimmy Garoppolo signing last offseason. Keep in mind that Kelly and Pierce are not necessarily joined at the hip, and owner Mark Davis has said the GM will have final decision-making power. So my biggest takeaways from ESPN outlining the Raiders' biggest offseason priorities is this. I agree that Aiden O'Connell isn't the answer. If you want to settle for a backup quarterback going into this offseason, that's fine. That's you. That's the opposite of commitment to excellence. It's the opposite of just win, baby. Aiden is only a backup. Champ Kelly and AP are not tied together, and that has been very well known. Yes, it is expected that if Kelly is hired, AP is going to be hired, and it is expected they're going to be together. But if it's Ed Dodds, it can still then be Antonio Pierce. And then the GM will make the final decision. This is why the Raiders are interviewing GMs first. This is why they are going that way. This is what good organizations do, and it's why I think that the fact that they're going to go GMs will make the final decision is why they will rule with Antonio Pierce and why they will not hire Jim Harbaugh. So what do you guys think here? Do you want Aiden O'Connell to be the Raiders quarterback next season? I almost pronounced AOC, which I don't even know how to do that. Type Y for yes, or I want you to type your N for no. Do you want number 4, AOC, to be the Raiders quarterback next season? My answer after this YouTube ad break. I think what Aiden had to do this season was not easy. Being a rookie quarterback, filling in for Jimmy Garoppolo, filling in for Brian Hoyer. When you're the third-string QB and you get put in a situation, you get put in a tough situation. Has he gotten better as the year went on? Yeah, he definitely got better. The numbers indicate that. But I'll say this right now. If you're going to be a box score warrior and you're going to point out Aiden's numbers, to me, then you just didn't watch the game. Aiden's limited. And the AFC West and the NFL, when you're starting to bring in a brand new head coach, if you're not swinging for a home run at QB, I don't want you to be a part of this. Aiden's going to be a backup. That's all he is. The Raiders need to go out. They need to find a good head coach, good GM, and they need to go to find themselves a hell of a quarterback. All right, let's go to the other thing here for ESPN and their predictions. The under-the-radar offseason priority, which out of all of these, this was probably one of my favorites that ESPN laid out. And, a lot of times you talk about the head coach, you talk about the GM, you talk about the quarterback, but the biggest reason why I made this show was because the under-the-radar offseason priority for the Raiders is, guess who? Patrick Graham. This is what they had to say about it. What about retaining defensive coordinator Patrick Graham? His defense shined after Josh McDaniels was shown the door, carrying the weight for the Raiders' offense. The defense allowed the league's fewest points from Week 9 to 18, which was 16, and Graham might now get head coaching interviews or be a candidate for a raise as a DC somewhere else. For continuity's sake, defensive end Max Crosby said the Raiders need stability and consistency. Keeping Graham in-house is a must. Guess what? Keeping Patrick Graham is just as important as keeping Antonio Pierce. I have said that for weeks. I have said that for months, and I know how excited people were when the Raiders brought in AP, right? I mean, the Raiders had the number 1 defense in the NFL from when Antonio Pierce took over, but that's what I expect when you have a defensive-minded head coach. Patrick Graham, though, took a pathetic Raiders defense for years, turned them into one of the best defenses, and then you pair that with Antonio Pierce, which is why I said if you're the Raiders, it's so important to keep AP and Patrick Graham, and you keep them together, and then you go figure out and worry about the offensive side of the football. I could not agree more here with ESPN saying that keeping Patrick Graham is just as important as keeping Antonio Pierce. Book it. Before we get into the other 3 things that ESPN has prioritized for the Raiders this offseason. Today's show is sponsored by Gametime. And Jeremy Chuggs and I, we're actually going to be out in Las Vegas during the Super Bowl week. So if you're going to be out there and you want to link up, hey, man, let us know. Maybe we can go, I don't know, to a Vegas Knights game together. Maybe we can go to a comedy event. Bottom line is this. Gametime is an amazing app, and I've been using Gametime way, way before they were a sponsor here on the show. And the reason why that I like it is because if you're a busy guy like me, forget planning months in advance. Gametime has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Get exclusive flash deals on tickets for basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, a whole lot more. I do think it's the perfect app for buying tickets when you're planning on visiting Las Vegas. So download the Gametime app, create an account, use code RaidersChat for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code RaidersChat for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Other options that I really like, though, that Gametime has is if you know you're going to be traveling somewhere over the weekend, they have a tab. Guess what? You're in that city. Here are some things to do over the weekend. Maybe you're, I don't know, penny pinching a little bit after the holidays. I don't know about you. I am. I'm not afraid to admit it. I bought my dad something nice for Christmas, and guess what? Now I'm saving up a little bit. I mean, shit, how do you think Chuggs feels? He's got Hanukkah. That's 8 days worth. So you're saving up. You need some events under $50. Bottom line is this. If you like going to events, if you like creating memories with the people that you go to those events with, last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Download the Gametime app, $20 off with code RaidersChat. That link's available to you down in the comments and down in the description of today's show. All right, let's keep it moving here. ESPN said, will they re-sign Josh Jacobs? This is another ESPN prediction priority, and it's a question that I know we've asked a bunch here, right? Do you let him walk? Do you bring him back? What do the Raiders end up doing? ESPN had this to say. Jacobs had the worst statistical season of his 5-year career, 805 rushing and 6 touchdowns on the ground. But he also missed significant offseason and training camp work with the team because of a contract dispute while on the franchise tag. He turns 26 in February, so he should have enough tread left. One thing in his favor for a potential re-signing, should Pierce get the full-time job, he values the running game. Jacobs' production has been better since Pierce took over, and Jacobs still has a chance to land a contract earning 7 figures per year. So in terms of Josh Jacobs coming back, Spotrac has his market value at 3 years, $40 million, so at $13.3 million per year with $25.2 million guaranteed. I'm going to tell you this right now, Spotrac has been wildly off and wildly inaccurate in terms of what they project for running backs because they're still looking at the overall market of running backs from like 5 or 6 years, including this year. If you just look at last season alone, I'm telling you right now, Jacobs ain't getting that. Pierce also called Jacobs the heart and soul of the team. So, I mean, if you're going to bet on Max Crosby saying, hey, I want Antonio Pierce back, if Antonio Pierce gets hired and he says a statement like this, there's a part of me that thinks, yeah, they might end up bringing Jacobs back. I don't know if I would do it, but hey, if that's what they're saying, we'll see. But Jacobs also said that he wants stability. He wants a longer-term contract. So my question to all of you is, do you want the Raiders to bring back Jacobs? We know he's a hell of a running back. We know that he's 26 years old. And I don't like to sit up here and say I predicted a bad year for Jacobs, but when you go back and you look at a lot of my videos in May, June, July, I mean, one of the videos that I made was history shows that Jacobs is going to have a down year. And guess what? He had his worst year in his 5-year, and it was one of the reasons why I didn't want the Raiders to give him that big-time deal last offseason. So guess what? As much as I like Jacobs, if it was up to me, I would say, based off of what Zamir White did, I would let him walk. However, though, if I'm also going to sit up here and say I'm going to put my trust in AP, I am going to put my trust in AP to be able to make the best decision for the Raiders. All I ask, though, is that you don't throw a 3-year, $40 million contract at him. This would be my offer to Jacobs. It would be 3 years, $21 million, with $14 million guaranteed. So the 2 years of that contract are guaranteed. That final year, if the Raiders want to be able to move on from him at 29 years old, they can do it. They can cut him. They can move on. Bottom line is this. The Raiders right now are not in the position to be able to pay a running back like Jacobs coming off the worst year of his career, a hefty contract, considering the fact of they need to figure out a quarterback. You got to figure out a lot of other spots, and you're missing 3 pieces on that offensive line. I don't care who you have at running back. If you don't have a good offensive line, it doesn't matter, as we saw this season at spurts. All right, let's go to the next thing here for ESPN, the draft outlook. And, you know, anytime you talk about the draft with Raider fans, I know that there was a little bit of a uneasy feeling just for the simple fake. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. The Raiders have struggled, right, in the draft. There's no doubt about it. And ESPN believes this. A new front office and coaching staff will have a major impact on what the Raiders do in the offseason. But quarterback is where the conversation starts after Garoppolo failed to nail down the starting job long term. Drafting outside the top 10 likely keeps Vegas out of the running for the top 3 quarterbacks, which is Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, and Drake May, but Michigan's J.J. McCarthy could be an option in the middle of round 1. He is an efficient passer with good mobility. I'm just going to tell you this right now. The worst thing that the Raiders could possibly do that's realistic without drafting a guy like Damon Arnett in round 1, like, let's be real here. But the worst thing that the Raiders could do in round 1 of the 2024 NFL draft is to take J.J. McCarthy. Like, McCarthy's not going to be a good NFL quarterback. Now, he might get put in the right system. Like, if you put McCarthy on the San Francisco 49ers and you let him run the offense similar to Brock Purdy, he would have some success. But right now where the Raiders currently at, if you bring in a QB like McCarthy, he's going to have to sit. He's not even close to being ready right now. And I will say it, he's the worst thing the Raiders could possibly do in round 1. It's the worst thing you could possibly do. It makes no sense. The final thing is this. The big prediction for the offseason, according to ESPN, and guess what? It involves trading Davante Adams. I know, some of y'all are like, not quite though. The Raiders will not trade receiver Davante Adams to the Jets. This move has been rumored for months. But I am betting Adams will decide he's happy playing under Pierce once Pierce has the interim tag taken off his title as coach. Adams went over 1,000 receiving yards for the 4th time in the past 5 seasons. And I agree here with ESPN. And I know what people do in the offseason. People always think, oh, Garrett Wilson changed from 5, or he freed up number 17. That means Adams is coming there. Aaron Rodgers wants his old buddy back. Here's the thing, though. Like, if Davante Adams is going to stand up there at that podium and say, we want Antonio Pierce back. If Max Crosby stands up there on that podium and says, we want Antonio Pierce back, and then Mark Davis brings back Antonio Pierce, and then you go away and you trade Davante, everything that you just did for locker room continuity and why you decided to hire AP was to keep that locker room together, you just ripped it in half. Like, it makes no sense. If you're going to keep Antonio Pierce, you're not going to trade Davante Adams. I'm telling you right now, it ain't happening. Plus, the Raiders have already paid him for the 2024 season. So I agree here. It's not going to happen. But if you're going to keep Tay, you better get him a franchise quarterback because you gave him a shitty Derek Carr with the Josh McDaniels offense, and then you gave him a shitty Jimmy Garoppolo, I can't even believe Brian Hoyer started the game in 2023, and you gave him a rookie. You want to make Davante happy, get him a franchise quarterback. So with all of this being said, what is the Raiders' biggest priority this off season? What's the biggest priority? Like, is it getting a QB? Is it hiring the right coach? Is it hiring the right GM? Maybe it's keeping Patrick Graham. What do you believe is the Raiders' biggest priority this offseason? And in no particular order, these are the 5 things that the Raiders need to do, right? You got to either hire Champ Kelly or Ed Dodds to be the general manager. Then you got to hire Antonio Pierce. To me, at this point, if you don't hire AP, I do think that you lose Max Crosby, and I do think that you lose Davante Adams, because if Max leaves, guess what? Davante, he's definitely out. You got to hire a great OC. If you're going to keep Antonio Pierce and you're going to keep Patrick Graham, you need to be able to hire an offensive coordinator that has some experience having the keys to that car. And maybe it's a Kliff Kingsbury. Maybe it's a Clint Kubiak. I don't know. It needs to be a well-respected OC. And Mark might have to pay him a little bit of extra money. Then you got to find your franchise quarterback. If you're able to do everything you did last season and you get a great quarterback and you let the OC do his thing, I think great things are happening for the Las Vegas Raiders, and it's why I am the most excited this year that I have been in a very long time. Now, remember, y'all, we make videos every single day here on this channel. Make sure you click that subscribe button. Make sure you got those notifications turned on. And when the Las Vegas Raiders do finally name a head coach, when they do finally name a GM, we will be going live. We will be partying here on the Raiders Report. All right, Chugs, name a free agent you want the Raiders to sign this year. I'm going to change my jersey, and then I'll be right back.
There we go. Let me know a free agent you want the Raiders to sign. Let me see. I see Chris Jones from Do the Doof. Unknown Raider guy says, I refuse another Raider rebuild. Justin Matabuke from Dexter and Vincenzo. Playmaker says Chris Jones. A lot of DTs, a lot of big boys. Chris Jones from Urza. Let me know. Zach Wilson from You Can't Handle the Truth. Chugs for D-line from Patrick B. I'm down. I'll sign at the vet men. Chase Young. Antoine Winfield. I would. I promise you. If the Raiders approached me and wanted to sign me for defensive tackle, I would sign for the vet men.
Would you sign for the men as a 7th-round rookie?
What is that?
$600K.
Yeah.
I would do that. Practice squad.
What is that?
That's probably about $12,000 a month.
I would.
Yep.
I would do that.
Yeah, I'm on it. Yeah, I'll be there.
I would be that.
I think the craziest job in my recent memory in the NFL was back during COVID, and I believe it was the New York Jets, or it was the Eagles. It was some team. Maybe it was the Eagles. They paid, he's an old veteran quarterback, Josh McCown, $40,000 a month to be their emergency quarterback for COVID, and all he had to do, he wasn't allowed to, he didn't go to practice. He just had to tune in via Skype once in a while to like their meetings, and if they ever needed a quarterback, he was their guy. But they paid him $40,000 a month just in case during COVID. Look up that story. It's insane.
I would have done it for 20.
Dude, I'm in.
Hit a Zoom call.
I'm in.
Catch me in the back of the Zoom call, just.
Yep. I'm there. Drinking a lot of water. I got you.
You get that, Chugs? Yep. Cover 2.
Yep, cover two. That's funny. Name a free agent you want the Raiders to sign this year.
Christian Wilkerson.
Yep.
We have
Jalen Johnson is another name that I do think could be a possibility.
Playmaker. I don't think you want Nicholas Morrow back. Watching our Eagles stream, multiple times Chase Sr. said Nicholas Morrow sucks.
Morrow, I know Morrow was really good
in coverage.
Morrow a few years ago for the Raiders was our best linebacker, which again was not saying a lot. The problem is, though, I would say over the past year or two, Morrow's really struggled with the Eagles. So I'm probably good on that. On top of that, though, like realistically, the Raiders don't need. Like you have Robert Spillane, you got Divine Diablo in his final year. Luke Masterson has done a halfway decent job. You drafted Amari Burney. Let's see what you got in him. Like, you could add some talent. Nicholas Morrow, though, is really not going to add that much as it stands right now.
Yeah.
Marcus Mariota, that's a hard pass. Mariota, I don't know if is a top 50 quarterback.
Chauncey Gardner-Johnson.
I do like the idea of that, but he's with
the Lions.
The Lions.
You kind of like the idea of keeping the safeties intact right now. You like Epps and
Merrick. To me, you got to do everything in your power to make sure that Epps and Merrick are a package deal. I mean, people don't realize how good those two were together. And Merrick, one of the reasons why Merrick was my number one safety back in, what was that, 2020?
2021, I think.
2021. No, you're right, because, they drafted Leatherwood 2021, and then at 17, Merrick at 42. But Merrick was my number one safety that year because I thought he could do everything phenomenal, and he's gotten better and better. And you finally saw when he gets to have the same defense, same defensive coordinator, what he could be. I mean, Merrick was a top 10 safety this year. Epps also can do so many different things, and then you pair that with Nate Hobbs and
people are like,
Jack Jones.
why does the Eagles' defense suck so much? Like, they didn't lose that many pieces. People really underestimated players like Marcus Epps.
He led the team in snaps. When you lead a team in snaps that went to the Super Bowl, believe it or not, that's important.
T.J. Edwards, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, all four of those guys, Javon Hargrave as well. If you lost 5 of your best players on defense, that's like if the Raiders lost Marcus Epps, Trevon Merrick, Robert Spillane, Nate Hobbs this year. You'd be like,
we're in trouble.
Yeah, not looking good.
Yeah, we're in trouble. But you see, it also doesn't help the Eagles when, I was a big fan of James Bradbury. I am so happy the Raiders did not sign him because he's been He's been really bad this year.
Ever since he grabbed in the Super Bowl,
he's been awful.
It's like that scene from Space Jam.
Yeah.
It took all his powers.
Yeah. He's been really bad, which I thought he was at least going to have another, because he was good last year.
Yeah. He was good last year.
This year he was really bad.
This year? Not
cooked.
So much. Oh, I mean, one of the worst tackles I've seen from a professional football player was
minus Marcus Peters.
Minus Marcus Peters. That attempted tackle that he had on the Bucs receiver that broke it for 60 yards.
The first one?
It was like
Was that the Trey Palmer one or the David Moore
Trey
one?
Palmer.
Yeah, shout out if Husker Raiders here. I'm not gonna lie, I saw Trey Palmer run that one in, and I was like, oh, dude, Husker's happy right now. Former Nebraska guy, fastest 40 at the wide receiver position last year, I want to say. Yeah, dude could run.
All right, before we get into this next segment, last chance to get in on the Venmo 50-50 Rafael.
Correct. Right now, as it stands, the last name that I got in was Mo Chavez, Rob Fravor, Moses. We are up to 18 people. $20 Venmo for a chance to win. As it stands right now, $180.
Raiders go.
Chance to win $180. We're going to do it after this next segment here. So our next segment is going to be around the Raiders potentially trading up to the number 1, number 2, and the number 3 pick. And I know there's been a lot of speculation of could the Raiders do it? Well, I'm going to say something that I haven't said yet, and I'm curious of what you guys have to say. So,
any more entries?
Eric, I just saw, got one in. Let me see here. Yep, Eric Mendoza in. So the entries that I have so far, Chugs, Willie Pfister, Brian Folsom twice, Scott Eckert, Sergio Torres.
I do, in fact, have a race that we have never done before.
Justin Gilbert, Manuel Ruiz, Andres Montonio, Gabriel Rebeldo, Sean Navarro, David De La O, James Guevara twice, the Great Tuna, Moses, Rob Fravor, Mo Chavez, Eric Mendoza are the 19 names that I have. And then I just saw Marcus Harness.
Oh.
In. That's a new one. Marcus in. So now we are up to 200 to the winner. 200 to the winner. This is going to be a good race.
To the winner.
All right, let's go through some supers, and then we will get into this final segment here. Defensive tackle Christian
Wilkerson.
Willie's son, linebacker Patrick Queen, and cornerback Jeff Okudah. Okudah does worry me a little bit with his injury history, though I was really, really high on him, and could be an interesting pairing, though I would like to be able to talk to, where's he at now? Carolina? I think he's with Carolina.
Jeff Okudah, I think he's with the Falcons.
Is he with the Falcons? I should say, I knew it was an NFC South team. I would like to be able to talk to that regime and see exactly how he looks, because I know I really, really liked him in Detroit, but the injuries have just really, he's with the Falcons. Christian Wilkerson, I love that pick because, again, he's got a great relationship with Rob Leonard. And then Patrick Queen has done a really good job with Baltimore. But to me, I'm not going to spend big on linebacker. If you're going to spend big, Wilkerson and Patrick Queen are going to be similar type of money. To me, Christian Wilkerson is the money that I would rather spend. And then if I'm going to spend big at corner, Jalen Johnson is another. Champ Kelly loves Jalen Johnson. Was a part of that regime that wanted to draft him, and
he's the
top corner.
He also likes how he plays on the football field.
Correct. Which it's hard not to. He's been really, really good. Trace in. And then I see Adrian ARR is how I'm going to put it. ARREOLA. Interesting. I don't know how to pronounce that. Areola? I mean, ARREOLA. How would you pronounce that? Areola? I know, you guys are going to get me in trouble here. We'll see. All right, y'all.
Plane crash today with Captain Sum-Ting Wong and We Too Low.
And Sherwood Lovehead. Fiery. Oh, boy. All right, Jeremy, let's get into this next one here. Let's talk about Desert Raider says you're saying it correctly. Is it you, Desert? I mean, that's something. That's something. Okay, is that an actual video?
Yeah. This news report station, there was like a plane crash, and somebody totally got them. What were the names? Hold on.
I mean, we sometimes do like fake names here at Chat Sports.
Oh, yeah. Here, and this is the actual, like,
Newscast?
picture that they put on the newscast. Captain, Something Wong, We Too Low, Holy Fook, and Bang Ding Ow.
No way, dude.
Yes.
That was on TV?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to just say this right now. Can you save that picture? Anybody who's watching right now, there's 1,100 people watching. At one point in 2024, okay, we should do just like a random like news bit video when we start it and go, all right, the Raiders have signed 4 players to future contracts, and it's those 4 names. And just see who believes it. You guys, there's 1,000 people right now that are watching that already know the inside joke. I'm okay with that. However, we're going to use those 4 names, and I'm going to say Raiders sign these 4 people to a futures contract at some point this offseason.
Roy, that's great. I might have to use that one.
What?
Stu Pidasso.
Oh, that's something. Darth says do it. Should I do it? Y for yes, N for no. If you guys are okay with it, I'll do it. If you're like, Mitch, don't do it. I won't do it. It's got to be like a random show, though. It's got to be like the reason why you subscribe for Raiders News is this. The Las Vegas Raiders have signed those 4 names to future contracts. I won't be able to say it. Luis was watching that newscaster live. Bang, ding, ow.
That was one of the names.
I mean, what would you do? I don't know. I'd have a mental breakdown. Oh, boy.
All right, let's get into this last segment. Talking about...
All right, we got 2 more people in the race. Davin Lopez.
Trading up in the draft.
And then Grant. Grant's last name is... Are you guys effing me right now? Grabanski? How would you... Grabanski. You guys are effing with me. Grant Grabanski. Is that it, Grant? Is that your real last name? Because now you guys are trolling me. Grant Grabanski. I don't know. Grant. Grant, if you're in the chat, I need to know, is that your real last name? Or are you effing with me right now? Grant Grabanski. Holy shit. I hope you win a jersey someday, Grant. I really, really do. Oh, man. Yeah, Nico, I've seen that one. Ben says me. All right, Ben. All right, here we go. 1,000 people. Let's get into our final segment here on the Raiders Report. And if you want a franchise quarterback, I think you guys are going to really, really like what I'm about to say. Raider Nation, it's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report. And coming up, the Las Vegas Raiders need to trade up for a franchise quarterback in the 2024 NFL Draft. I am saying it right now. I am planting my flag. I want to change this direction of this franchise, and I believe it starts with finding an elite quarterback under center. So I'm talking to you, Mark Davis. I'm talking to Champ Kelly, Antonio Pierce. I want the Raiders to trade up into the top 3 and get a franchise quarterback in the 2024 NFL Draft. I don't care what it costs. I don't care how it's going to get done. All I want to know is that it ends up getting done. And coming up here on the show, I'm going to tell you how much it's going to cost to get to 1, 2, and 3 in the draft. If you're looking for more draft videos this offseason, it's 100% for free for you to click that subscribe button. In fact, how about this? Hit subscribe watch the show for a week, watch when we go live, watch some of our crazy shenanigans shows when we're doing beer bongs, but then also watch the day-to-day of my videos that go out every single day. I don't always get crazy, but when I do, I usually go live when I do so. Bottom line is this, it's free. Watch the show. If you like it, awesome. If you don't, hit that unsubscribe button. So I think you'll be back. Reason why the Raiders have to find a franchise quarterback is because, to me, I looked at what this team was from the moment Antonio Pierce took over with Patrick Graham. If you keep both of those guys, the Raiders had the best defense in the NFL, allowing 16 points per game. So to me, you give yourself a good OC. You got to then find that OC a hell of a quarterback. I'm not going to try to give a NASCAR driver a Prius. No, we're going to try to give him a Ferrari. So how do you get a Ferrari? You're going to trade up into the top 3. You're going to try to get yourself a Jaden Daniels, a Drake May, or a Caleb Williams. Also, on top of that, I look at the NFL being a copycat type of league. And I hear you. There's been a lot of quarterbacks that weren't drafted in the first round that have had some success in the NFL. I've heard it through and through again. But for us to take that next step, I'm talking about getting it done not only in the regular season, I'm talking about getting it done in the playoffs. And when you look at the 8 teams that are in the playoffs, as it stands right now, guess what? 7 out of the 8 teams all have a quarterback that was drafted in the first round. Baker Mayfield, first round pick, first overall. Jared Goff, guess what? Traded up for him, first overall. Jordan Love, first round pick. Brock Purdy is the only one that was taken in the 7th round, and here's the thing, the Raiders don't have a team like the 49ers do. Patrick Mahomes, first round. Josh Allen, first round. C.J. Stroud, first round pick. Lamar Jackson, late first, but it was still in the first. My point is this. This is an NFL-driven league, and the only way that you're ever going to be able to compete with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid is if you find yourself a home run at quarterback. So to me, I am going to believe in Antonio Pierce. I am going to believe in this regime to do the right thing. And until you start hitting on first-round picks anyway, guess what? First-round picks for Raider fans honestly should be like unicorns, Bigfoot, if you believe in any of them, I'm sorry. But when you go back and you look at the first-round picks, like if I told you I would be willing to trade Tyree Wilson, Alex Leatherwood, Damon Arnett, Henry Ruggs, Jonathan Abram, Cleveland Ferrell, ship them all out until you prove to me you can draft somebody in the first round. I am okay shipping everything to go get one of these 3 quarterbacks right here. I believe Drake May from UNC is a Aaron Rodgers coming out of college, Justin Herbert style quarterback. I believe Caleb Williams has the upside to be a top 5 QB in the NFL. And I think Jaden Daniels in the right system. Plus, he is great friends with Antonio Pierce and this regime. All 3 of these quarterbacks is where the Raiders need to go for this season. In the free agency, you build your defensive line. You build your offensive line. You build all the pieces. And then in the draft, you go, I'm going all in. I'm going to get one of these guys. The quarterbacks that you have to avoid at 13, I do not want to take Bo Nix from Oregon. I don't think he's very good. J.J. McCarthy, stay the hell away from him at 13. Michael Penix Jr., I'm not taking him at 13. He's 24 years old, and he's got a long injury history. I am going all in. This is the year. You effed around with John Gruden. You effed around with DC for way too long. You effed around with Josh McDaniels. Make your fan base happy. Make your players happy. Go out and get yourself a franchise quarterback in the 2024 NFL Draft. So if the Raiders traded up for a QB, I bet it's either Caleb Williams or Jaden Daniels. That's me being real with you. And the reason why that I say that is because Jaden Daniels very well connected with Antonio Pierce. Jaden Daniels at his Heisman Trophy presentation gave a shout out to Antonio Pierce on the final game for the Raiders in Week 18 when they beat the Denver Donkeys. Guess who was in the locker room? Jaden Daniels. The other reason, though, why I think Caleb Williams is in there is because he's recently been linked to Kliff Kingsbury, who's been linked to the Raiders. And if the Raiders go hire Kliff as their OC, I think that there's a legit shot the Raiders could trade up to number 1. The problem is, though, getting 13 all the way up to number 1, it's not going to be easy, and I'll tell you how much it's going to cost. Before we get into that, though, let's have a conversation. If I'm sitting up here saying pick a quarterback, what about you? If they say, all right, we're doing it. We're picking a quarterback, and we're going to base that pick off of what Raider Nation decides right now. Who's going to be the quarterback that you go out and get? If it's Drake May, I want you to type DM. If you think it's Jaden Daniels, I want you to type JD. If you think it's Caleb Williams, I want you to type CW. If there is somebody else that you would want the Raiders to go out and get, I want you to type O. My answer is going to be after this YouTube ad break. My quarterback rankings based on talent and how well I think that they're going to play in the NFL is this. I do think Drake May is the best quarterback in this year's draft. Why? He's got it up here more than these other two guys do. Caleb probably has the most talent. Jaden Daniels, though, has shown me that he has the ability to get better and better and better. But here's the thing, though. This can and it will change depending on the head coach and depending on the OC. If the Raiders decide to bring in Kliff Kingsbury, guess who my number one is? Caleb Williams. If the Raiders are going to roll with everything Antonio Pierce is doing, you might be able to convince me that maybe it's somebody like Jaden Daniels. But this is right now. Bottom line, if you said Drake May is the Las Vegas Raiders starting quarterback next season, happy guy. Caleb Williams is the Raiders starting quarterback next season, happy guy. If Jaden Daniels is the Raiders starting quarterback next season, I'm a happy guy. You got to get one of these guys in silver and black. So coming up here is going to be the cost to trade up to get picks 1, 2, and 3. I want to outline it because I'm a big believer the only way that you're getting one of those guys is if you trade up into the top 3. So how much is it going to cost? It's going to be a lot, but guess what? We got some money to spend. Well, draft picks to spend. Also, shout out to today's sponsor, PrizePicks. And if anybody wants to go get started with the #1 daily fantasy sports app out there, but Mitch, Raiders games are over. Playoff games on PrizePicks, it's electric. NBA games on PrizePicks, electric. Heck, you could even take, if you're like, all right, I'm a Warriors-Lakers fan, I'm going to go put some more or less down on LeBron James, and I want to be able to pair that for Jeremy Chuggs with C.J. Stroud on the passing yards. You can do both of those things. You can go with your Goblin picks, your Demon picks to make a little bit of extra money. All you got to do is pick 2+ players, choose more or less, and to show PrizePicks that you got started with the Raiders report, believe it or not, it helps me out a lot. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS, which Jeremy just put for you guys down in the live comments. It's also going to be in the description and comments of today's show, but make sure that you use code CLNS for a $100 deposit match for your first timer. So you put down $100, guess what? You get a $100 deposit match. So Brock Purdy, I'm going to go less in this week's playoff game with 265.5 passing yards. I think the 49ers are the better team. Going to be in the lead. They're going to run the rock a little bit more. Give me the more, though, on C.J. Stroud. Dude's been cooking and was cooking against the Cleveland Browns, who I thought had the best defense in the NFL. Maybe they don't. And then George Kittle, the one weakness that Green Bay had against the Cowboys was against the tight end position. Kittle, 52.5 receiving yards. I kind of like that a lot. And Brock Purdy in a playoff game needs a safety blanket. I believe it's going to be Kittle. But the bottom line is if you want to roll with my picks, if you want to fade my picks, you're going to have fun no matter what. It's hard in today's day and age to be able to entertain yourself for 3+ hours with the ability to win some money. So go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and make sure that you use code CLNS to get started with our awesome sponsor, PrizePicks. All right, here we go. Coming up is going to be the cost to trade up to get pick number 1, trade up to get pick number 2, trade up to get pick number 3. Now, when I have done this show before, I have outlined a bunch of different trades, and these trades that you're going to see, I have reached out and talked to people that are a lot more tied into the NFL draft, people that, go to the NFL Combine every single year. They sit down, they talk to players, coaches, and just I respect their draft opinion on what it costs a lot more than my own personal. That's just me being real. The only way you can guarantee, though, to get Daniels, May, or Caleb is to trade into that top 3. And I'm sitting up here saying right now, I'm okay with it. If it costs whatever to go up to number 1, number 2, number 3, the Raiders got to do something because you can't keep rolling out mediocre quarterback talent. I'm sick and tired of watching mediocre quarterback talent for the Raiders. So if you want to go up to number 1, this is what it's going to cost. It's going to cost all 3 of your picks this year, so your first 3 picks this year, 13, 44, 77. My source that's tied in with the NFL draft, when I originally said 3 first-rounders, he said that this is actually more valuable because the longer that draft picks go down the chain, the less valuable that they get. So he said that he personally thinks to get up to number 1, it would cost 3 picks this year, 13, 44, 77, and then your first, your second, and your third next year, and then a starting caliber player of the Bears choosing. It's not a Devontae Adams. It's not a, Max Crosby. Throw those 2 out of the way. But if it's a starting player, maybe like a Jacoby Myers, maybe it's somebody like a Colton Miller. You have to be willing to do Nate Hobbs, Jeremy just said. Like, that has to be into the equation. So this is what it costs to get up to number 1 overall for you to land your franchise guy. Now, if you want to go up to number 2, I will mention, I don't think that the Commanders would trade out of this position. However, let's say the Commanders trade up to number 1 and the Bears fall back to 2. If there's some other team here at 2, this is just based on what the cost is. So it would be your 13th and 77th. So a first-round pick, third-round pick in 2024. All 3 again in 2025. You're giving them up. And then another starting caliber player would have to go to Washington. This is where it's a little bit of a tier break because I think just teams value Drake May and Caleb Williams so much that I don't think it's going to cost nearly as much to go up to number 3. And do the New England Patriots they even decide to trade with the Raiders? I don't have a great answer there. But if it is Dave Ziegler at GM, who knows? There's a lot of good relationships still there with Ziegler, with current people in the building. But to get it, the Raiders get the 3rd overall pick. The New England Patriots, they get the 1st and 3rd round pick this year and a 1st and 3rd round pick next year. So what do you think the Raiders should do? Are you all in? Are you like, yeah, man, let's go up to number 1. Yeah, man, let's go up to number 2. Let's try to get up to number 3. I think the easiest answer is let's get up to 3. However, with all of that being said, I think the position, the one that's the easiest to get or the one that's the most likely to get is the number 1 overall pick. If you were to ask me out of the Bears, Commanders, Patriots, which team is the most willing to trade back, I'd say it's Chicago. However, though, both teams, all 3 teams, probably could use a quarterback. Coming up here, players I'd be willing to trade to move up. And when I say willing to trade, it would be like so everything that I just laid out there, right? The 3 first-round picks, the 3 second-round picks, starting player, if they just needed a cherry on top, you're like, hey, man, you want me to throw in something else? Like you're at the gas station and the guy's like, oh, here, you can have a pack of gum. I'm going to tell you who those pack of gum players are here in just a moment. But before I tell you, I do want to give you our programming schedule. We are going to be live on Thursday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. These are our turn-up days, so if you want to turn up with the nation, you miss Oakland tailgates, let's do some beer bongs together. Then I'm going to be live Chiefs, Bills. We get it started 1 hour before kickoff. So this game gets underway at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to be cheering on Buffalo. It's going to get rowdy. We're going to have a fun giveaway item, so be on the lookout for that. I can't promise you that Chugs and I are going to jump through any tables, but if it meant that the Chiefs lost, Chugs and I are going to jump through a few freaking tables. So here are the trade candidates and essentially what their value is. Believe it or not, Hunter Renfrow is only worth a 7th-round pick with his current contract, whether you want to believe that or not. Another player that I would be willing to move on from, Divine Diablo, I think a team would say, all right, that's worth a 6th-round pick. Brandon Faison does save you a lot of money if you move on from him. Again, 7th-round type of value. I'd be willing to move on from Byron Young. It wasn't crazy when the Raiders drafted him. Struggled a lot last season. You'd say you get a 6th-rounder for him. And then Jacorian Bennett at 6. The reason why also these players are tied in, he's got 1 more year left. You trade him, you could save over $3 million. Byron Young was drafted by McDaniels in his regime, barely played. Jacorian Bennett was bad when he was on the field, drafted by this regime, barely played. Hunter Renfrow, you got to move on from him. And if you can get something cool, though, a lot of people would say maybe post-June 1st cut is the way to go because you could actually save $11.8 million by doing that. For more updates here around the Las Vegas Raiders, you can always hit me up on IG. You can always hit me up on Twitter. I'm at Mitchell Renz 365. We make a lot of content every single day for the nation. Not only is it my job, but I've made it my job for a reason because nobody's ever going to outwork me and Jeremy Chugs. Always remember that. You want commitment to excellence? You want just win, baby? Hit subscribe. Hit us up on social media. We like to interact. All right, my man. Let's get into this 50-50 raffle here. I am ready. I'm going to refresh my phone.
Oh, yeah.
The last name that I got was Grabsamaski. So he's in. Grant with the last name like Grabsamaski. He's in. All right, as it stands right now, $20 Venmo. Winner's going to get $240. $240, Jeremy. I'm going to send you all the names.
A little bit louder now. A little bit louder now.
All right, last chance to get in here. We got the 24 names in, and then if I get any else, I will then send those names also to my guy, Jeremy Chugs here. I'm curious to see what race you ended up going with. I'm not going to lie. Really, really curious to see what race you ended up going with here. What do we got here? What up, Roy? What up, Sienna?
All right, you ready to see it?
I am ready. I don't have last refresh. All right, I don't have anything else. If you send in a Venmo, it's going to Chuck's college fund to help him get into Barkley. Are these Easter eggs?
It's an egg race.
It's an egg race. You know what's crazy? I think I saw somebody in the comments say egg race. I'm not even kidding you. I don't know if this is like what they meant, but this is a hell of an egg. All right, shuffle it up a little bit here. Shuffle it up a little bit. Winner gets $240.
All right. Are you ready?
Are you ready?
In 3, 2, 1. Eggs, start your engines!
And here, oh, wait a minute. The legs are out here a little bit. Looks like Jeremy's losing a little bit of yoke. David De La O is out to the early lead. Now Brian Folsom really charging forward. I bet, oh, wait a minute. Now they're poking up a little bit. I bet you whoever wins hatches. Everybody else doesn't. That's my guess. Sergio Torres right now with the lead. Watch out for Adrian. Winner gets $240. Pop it up a little bit. Trace got the lead. Now it's Moses splitting the eggs like the Red Sea. Andres takes the lead back. James Guevara in a very interesting spot. Watch out for Devin Lopez. My man Grant grabs some Askey. Let's go. Come on, Grant. Come on, Grant. This one's close. Chugs is lurking right here. Oh, he just poked out his little turtle head right there. Giggity. Tuna.
Come on! Come on!
Grab some Askey. Is it going to be Manuel Ruiz? Gabriel. Chugs, I think, is done. Down to the wire. Manuel Ruiz. Dude, I don't know if I've ever seen an egg win from down there. I mean, honestly, I don't think we've ever seen it. All right, where did everybody finish? Shout out to Manuel. What a race. Oh, let me get out of the way here. Also, Brandon Jasper still looking for his first dub. Brandon, I'm sorry, man. Chugs, where'd you finish? 10th. Who's picking 13th? Brian, Mr. Folsom. All right, Manuel, I need you to confirm. Not yet, because I haven't sent it yet. Also, let's see how many times Manny has raced. 240 eggs. Do you want some eggs? All right, let's see here. Manuel, how many times have you raced? We have, all right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 races. Manuel Ruiz, first win. Congrats, Manuel. That's freaking awesome, man. First win. Let's go. Let's freaking go. Oh, that's clutch. Oh, dude. All right, y'all. This is the time of the day where I say I got to get going. Hopefully all y'all enjoy the rest of your day. Obviously, if the Raiders hire a GM, I will be back. We will be making the content around that. I do have a favor, though. Can we get to 1,000 likes? I don't know the last time I did a Tuesday show with 1,000 likes. Legitimately. I don't remember the last time that happened. So here's going to be the last thing I ask. Can we get to 1,000 likes? If we can get to 1,000 likes on today's show, I will start off Thursday's show with a beer bong. Because Thursday's Thirsty Thursday, where we usually let our hair down a little bit, and we usually get a little bit crazy. Rebel said, I want some tacos. I'm not going to lie, tacos sound phenomenal. I don't know what the hell I'm going to eat when I get home, though. Oh, actually, you know what I bought? I got a Flower Child meal prep for the whole week. Did the family style. Just because it's so cold. What did I got the broccoli, and I got the sweet corn quinoa. That's what Alex likes. You know, actually, you know what you got to try there? Alex loves it. I just saw a super chat come in. they have a gluten-free pudding. Gluten-free chocolate pudding. I'm not lying to you. It's phenomenal. You got to try it. It's really, really good. Mitch, I want Khalil Mack back on our team. You know, there's a lot of people in this office that want to date Sydney Sweeney. I just don't think it's going to happen. So, John, best of luck to you. If it does happen, I promise you this, we'll be going crazy. We'll be going crazy here on this show if it does end up going down. Brandon, I will say this. Closing time is usually only something that we do on Thursday or after when we get a little bit shitty. So, I want to stick to it. We will be singing closing time on Thursday. That I can promise you. However, on a Tuesday show, yeah, Jeremy said it's like a restaurant that has daily specials. All right, y'all. I'm going to get out of here. I gave it the opportunity to get to 1,000. I don't know if we're going to be able to get there. The next time that you're going to see me and Jeremy Chuggs is going to be on Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Then we'll sing some closing time. Then Chiefs, Bills, and man, oh man, I cannot wait for that football game. What?
And if you want to get crazy with me on Saturday.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
I'll be live on our Texans channel for Texans, Ravens. If you want to get crazy on Saturday.
You're crazy, man.
Maybe another giveaway item. I don't know.
Maybe.
I have to look. Join me on Saturday and then Sunday here on the Raiders Report.
Yeah, believe it or not, when you guys go support Chuggs, it does help us all out here. And, you know, when we always say, like, hey, man, you know, we don't keep any of the Super Chat dollars. What we do is we take a lot of that money and we invest it, you know, obviously rent, lights, all that kind of good stuff. But then it also gives Chuggs an opportunity to be a host.
I saw Nico, Patrick B., Sienna. They were all there. If you want to hang out, if you're just chilling on Saturday, want to watch the game, hang out, it'll be a good time.
I'll be there. I mean, I'll tell you this right now. When any game that's happening that Chat Sports has a team for, I have the game on, and then I'm listening and I'm watching.
Rob won the 50-50.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's dope. Yeah. Oh, Rob beat me. I came in second.
Yeah.
All right, Rob. You're going down. You're going down on Saturday, Rob. And anybody else that's about to tune in, Tadashi, Ron, y'all, appreciate you. I'll see you guys Thursday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, live here on the Raiders Report.